All right, y'all ready? Go ahead and call this evening's budget work session to order. I'd just like to get started with just a few notes here. Good evening, and thank you all for attending our 2018 budget working sessions. And thank you to all the citizens that are out there watching and listening to the work sessions on television this evening. We have a total of 3 budget work sessions scheduled right now, tonight, tomorrow night, and also on the 27th. All 3 sessions will begin at 6 p.m. each night. I'm Phyllis Fitzgerald. I'm the mayor of Junction City, Kansas, and I'll be leading the charge this year for the 2018 budget work sessions, but I won't be doing it alone. There's 4 other commissioners as well, and together the 5 of us will be working hard on the budget. Our goal for Junction City for the year 2018 is not to raise taxes or the mill levy, but we have to ensure that we get our bills paid, take care of the employees, and provide the best service to all the citizens of Junction City. After a few more comments, the session will begin with our city manager, Mr. Dinkle, providing us with an introduction to the 2018 budget. After his introduction, we'll begin hearing from the department heads as they present their budget to the commission. We'll be asking questions, making comments, and providing guidance. The departments that we'll be hearing from this evening are streets, special highway, water utility distribution, wastewater utility distribution, stormwater utility distribution, solid waste utility operations, the fire department, which includes the fire reserve, and the ambulance. But before that, I would just like to tell the city staff, thank you for all the hard work that you put into preparing the budget proposal for 2018. And also thank you to all the department heads for preparing your portion of the budget and for being cognitive and responsible for your department and the employees that work for you. And for the citizens of Junction City, thank you. Keep in mind, any decision that we make, we will always have you and your best interest in mind, as well as our future generations. And if you'd like to have a copy of the budget, you can find that on the Junction City homepage. And at this time, Mr. Dinkle.
Thank you, Madam Mayor and Commissioners. Going through a lot of budget stuff. Of course, the forms are different this year, and do some software. We made, not changes, but Cheryl did some corrections as far as she hit the wrong button, but that's fine. We'll get through this. Different formats, so maybe a little bit to get used to, just because some of you, this is your 4th or 5th, or in Commissioner Land's place, maybe a couple more times than that, you get used to the old form, and sometimes we just got to move forward and change that, and I think we'll work through it. When I first started going through it with Cheryl, it was like, I don't like this, but the more I got through it, even I finally grew to tolerate it a little bit more, but next year I'll like it. But anyhow, I think there's a couple things on the whole budget thing. I think what we got to so far is a very responsible budget. There's a smidge of a mill levy increase in there, but I'm talking about smidge. Less than half a mil, and there's some room to tweak that there. I think a couple things you have to remember. We are using, for this mill levy we're talking about tonight, is we're using last year's valuation. I reported last week, and I think it's probably going to hold true. Our valuation is probably going to drop $3 to $4 million, and those numbers should be final this week. Hopefully, they're under state statute. The county clerk should have them to us by the 15th. Not a big move. We're still talking 2-3%, and I think we can work in 2-3%. And this is no different than last year. We didn't have our mill levy last year till about the 15th of July, and we were basically done with our budget before we had it. But again, it's such minor tweak, don't worry about it. You as a city commission do not set mill levy. Roundabout way you do, but you levy tax dollars. And then, of course, it's divided into the valuation of the city and to get the mill levy that's charged. If it's done correctly, the mill levy that will be published in our budget, our estimated mill levy will be published in the budget on August, when the budget is hopefully approved on August 15th, and it gets published that next week, may or may not change. If the valuation moves up, if the October 1 or November 1 number is higher, the valuation, the mill levy goes down a tweak, and vice versa. It hasn't happened that way, but that's the way it's supposed to happen. If it's done correctly, there's state statutes on that. So you'll be doing the that there. We are under tax lid. We're not even going to test it. but we're under tax lid, and we have no desire to even talk about it. Now, the key issue is the tax lid is not the mill levy. It's the amount of tax dollars. So the key issue is, and one decision the commission is going to have to make as we move through this process is, if the valuation does move down where I expect it to, about that 2 to 3%, do you lower your expenses by 2 to 3%, the amount you need, and cut back there, or do you keep the expenses the same, and even though your tax dollars are the same, your mill levy would go up a little bit, and that's a choice that the commission has to make, and you can do that. The downside with our budget is, I think I mentioned my 515 last week, where last year 43% of our budget was for debt service. I can't cut debt service expenses. Locked in place, long-term agreements that the city had. So that 43% would turn into like a 45, 46% of the budget would be debt service if you keep the mill levy the same. So you'll do that. So if I'm saying you have to cut 2 to 3%, that 2 to 3% has to come out of all the other funds. There's one fund, Fire Reserve, that's a set mill levy, not to exceed 2 mills. Well, if a mill was worth 170, what was last year? A mill was worth 178,000 last year. You got the 178 basically times, it was a smidge below that because it rounded down, but you got that amount. If the valuation moves down to 174, you're going to get 2 times 174. So those are automatically locked in place a little bit. I don't think we have anything quite tied to mill levy like that. We do 1 mill for EDC,
EDC is.
and that's going to be the same
2
way.
mills for the fire reserve.
Yeah, 1 and 2. Yeah, 2 for Fire Reserve and 1 for,
No, the library is based on what they ask for.
they can go
Up
up
to 6 mills.
They're typically
And they're
4.5.
typically run 4.5.
Right.
4 to 4.5.
Yeah. Well,
Right.
last year they were
Last year they were like
4087,
4,
48089, yeah.
There was one year they were at 4.4, I think.
Yeah, so they don't move much. I mean, but if they get the same tax dollars they get last year, their mill levy will go up this year because of the valuation going down a bit.
Yep.
Just things to balance on that. I don't think we have no reason. You know, we were asked in May, Cheryl was asked by the county, are we thinking about possibly having an election? Because if you want to go above the tax lid, you have to have an election probably in early August. The county, for example, is hurrying to look at their budget here in June. Last year, they didn't get their budget done until after the deadline, actually. But they're looking at it because if they want to have an election, you have to put election in place 5 weeks prior to the election. August 1 is the election date. So if they want to hit the same election that we're going to have a primary for our city commission, they would have to have their budget. They have to decide that by the 27th of June, 5 weeks. And but we have no desire. We're not going to do. Not even desire. We're not going to do it. You know, that's a given. And because we're well below that, and no problem.
Question for you. When you talk about the debt, 43% of our budget this year is going to debt. How much?
Last year.
43%.
Well, yeah, last year. but-
43% of our tax, of our
Dollars.
property tax dollars. Our debt also includes $800,000 of transfers from different funds and the 1% sales tax. One of the concerns, of course, and sales tax has been sluggish, as we've told you. Hopefully it'll improve here this summer if all we start getting more military back. We're paying our bond payments this year. So if the sales tax comes off a little bit, say it doesn't improve next year, we then have to find other ways to pay for it. Either we do more transfers or pay some out of general fund or whatever the case would be. So that debt piece is in there. So when I say 43%, that's only 40% of your property tax dollars. It's not the 800,000 because that's still in there yet. It is what it is. You know, in the one state form, did you give them that, the state form?
Is there a
That's what I wanted to explain
Yeah,
next.
okay, we'll
Is
get it in a
there
second.
a percentage that we don't ever want to go above on our debt?
Oh, yes.
Yeah, we're above it.
We're above it now.
Yeah, we're above it.
And we keep going?
No.
No.
You got 2 debts. You got 3, we have 3 debts. 4 debts. One debt is general obligation bonds, and that's where your cap is. And general obligation bonds in our case, and I'll just use them, a lot of the special assessments for all the streets and the curb and gutter and that was put in.
Yeah, all the developments.
You got some special assessment for economic development moves the city made, the
About 50 million.
about 50 million. The Opera House is thrown in there. Everybody always blames the debt we have on all the extra build. It's a piece, but it's not the lion's share. The lion's share is other things, and Cheryl has all the breakdown of those, and I mean, it is what it is on that. Then we have our revenue debt, revenue bonds we use. We have GO bonds, general obligation, which are based by taxes. And the reason why general obligation bonds are normally a better interest rate on the bond market is because
The
they're
guarantee.
guaranteed that the city will have to raise taxes to pay for them. So that gives the bondholder a guarantee to some extent. Revenue bonds, and we use revenue bonds or loans through ADHE for our water projects, our wastewater projects, and use that. Then we have highway monies that we borrowed from KDOT, but that was for some street work out in the subdivision, wasn't it? Yeah, for a lot of street work.
Well, there was a mix of everything.
Yeah, a mix of everything of those, and those start falling off. We're going to see debt fall off over the next few years. 26, 27, 28 will be the years when we'll see some substantial debt fall off, will roll off. As debt falls off now, the cool part about it, when debt falls off now, we can continue, basically what we were given for debt, and as costs go up, be it labor or health insurance or fuel or cost of parts or cost of a truck for one of our general fund departments, it can be transferred over and moved up in there without having to raise the general side. So our total tax, our mill levy probably won't change much over the next few years. But as debt goes down, it may transfer a little bit of the cash debt, because one of the things we have, and as you all know, we've talked about this before, we've been conservative. I think we've been, and I always say, we as a whole team have found the balance of keeping taxes and trying to meet services. If you want to come in and argue we should do three times the amount of streets we're doing, I'm not going to argue with you. I'm going to say, come to the city commission and request your taxes go up. That's the only way we could do it. But I think we're finding that, and we really have. I think what was done in the past and everything else, we always talk about how we save money, and you can't point one thing, but Cheryl talks about when she first got here, we had $2-3 million of total dollars on a good day.
No, when I arrived here, we had $300,000
Okay.
cash in the bank.
In the bank. Now, with different funds, we're north of 17 million.
Yes.
That's good. It's still short. I would love in our funds to have 3 to 6 months of operating without any revenue coming in. And Cheryl says, you've heard those before from the financial advisors, 20 to 30%, but kind of the same thing. But you guys, we've moved that direction, so that's a good thing. You've moved there and moved well, and I really believe what we've done the last few years, we find the balance. But balance doesn't always mean you get what you want; you get what you can afford, and we found that. I'm very, like I said, when we go through the numbers, and Cheryl will go in more details as we work on through. Right now, the number she gave me Friday, we're at 48.49 mils. Right?
48.6.
6 now?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, the 49.765 that you were given, this changes
lower.
daily now until we set the final numbers, okay? This that you got last week is already changed. These numbers, because I got the audited cash numbers from the auditor on the year-end cash balances, and we were at a better cash position than what was estimated by our year-end internally. Okay, so it's now at 48.6 mils. So which would from last year was 48.0. So that's only a half a mil difference.
Okay. Anyhow, what makes up our funds? You always hear me talking about my budget box, but your budget box is made up of your revenue. First of all, your revenue is cash carryover, and if you have your cash carryover, and if you lower cash carryover year, that means in the future you're going to have to raise taxes or really cut expenses, one of the two. So cash carry as a builder becomes real important because it makes that box bigger. Then on top of that, we know, okay, you're telling us we want to do about 48 mils tax. We know how much that is. Pop. Cheryl puts in her numbers in sales tax, motor vehicle taxes, and motor vehicle taxes that we get are split between the five, we have 5 taxing entities, 5 or 6, 1, 2, 5, are split by a formula. If 43% of our budget last year was debt service, our general fund, 43% of the motor fuel tax, not the motor fuel tax, the
Recreation.
vehicle taxes, the motor vehicle tax, excuse me, motor vehicle taxes, recreation for the time, truck taxes, goes to the debt service fund. If the general fund was 20%, I mean, whatever numbers are, so it's a percentage thing. So that all fills in your box there. You know, we don't have a lot of revenue generated, but in general fund, I mean, we don't charge for streets. You know, we do get money for some things we do. We get money from pool admissions and golf and Spin City, and we have court fines, and we have, you know, from the tickets. You know, if we get money from the from ambulance call, the insurance pays, we get that. But of course, we're agreeing with the county. They also fill in that there's that agreement we have with the county where what doesn't get reimbursed, we get money from the county. So that all fills in that box, and you get it that full. And then, of course, when your box is that big, you throw your expenses in there, and it should be, your expenses need to be equal or less, because if they're higher than, that means if they're equal to actually that whole box, you're going to eat that reserve out, and we don't want to eat reserve down. It's there in case of emergency. Trust me, if we had a tornado blow through, we're going to the reserve. But, and you want reserve, and I still want more reserve. I mean, it's just something that you have to have. And again, every utility county, we're not a utility county per se, but that 3 to 6 months of operating without any money coming in is a goal we need to strive to. We're not there. And we won't get there for years, but it's out there. And I think we're moving, as I've just told you before, we're moving that direction. And you know, it's been the last 6 years, all the things, 7 years, that the city has done to get to that point. Don't forget that. Don't beat yourselves up because everybody goes things. It's like, come a long ways. And you know, Commissioner Landis knows that probably as much as anybody. Him and Cheryl have been here the longest. And these old guys, these other guys.
Commissioner Sands.
Commissioner Sands. Yeah, you came out at the same time. Excuse me. I'm sorry.
I'm okay. I'm good. I'm still here.
Good, thank you.
Yeah, good stuff. But I think you know, we'll start moving through it. And there's some room. We have some wiggle room here, and I will never bring you a budget exactly there because if I don't let you cut something, you don't feel like you know. So there's a little room in there, and there's some things and priorities a little bit. And again, you know, some of the things as Cheryl mentioned in her letter or one of the reports, is a lot of cities when fuel prices went down have cut their fuel money down. I'm opposed to doing that. I had a city that did that. We got to cut our fuel down. Back in about 2009 when gas prices came down a little bit, they decided, oh, we're going to cut how much we budget for fuel. The next year when gas went up to $4, they got stung. That's one of those areas that if it built, that's one of my reserve builders. Because as we all know, fuel prices can change pretty quickly. Somebody does something a little weird around the world. It's good planning on Cheryl's part.
Well, I also
Go ahead.
I don't let them spend that money either. And once it has to be a really good reason why we would transfer money out from that line item. And we do the same with personnel management. If they were budgeted for 6 people, they better be spending only for 6 people. Unless there's something really tragic that happened that caused it to go up, would we take money from somewhere else to put into personnel, and likewise personnel into other things? We don't allow them to transfer from personnel and fuel unless there's a really good reason. Rest of the stuff, you know, we'll allow them to move money up and down in their budget, justified money up and down in their budget, but they're told you don't move from those line items.
Anything, Cheryl?
Okay. I think just a real quick benefit for anybody else that's viewing and watching, personnel costs, the 2% COLA is the cost of living increase. We don't base anything off of work for performance because we just don't have the money to do it. So we've been going and basing everything off of just a cost of living increase. And that has been average anywhere from 0.5% to 2%. 1.5% to 2% for the last few years. It's on the rise a little right now, but the 2% is what we're going to budget for next year or have put in it. You can always change that. The CAPERS numbers is something it is what it is. CAPERS, when they increase, we have to, and they've already given us their final numbers and what the increases are going to be. And the 5% health insurance increase, even though we announced last month that there wasn't going to be health insurance increase, our renewal is in August of every year. And we don't know if there's going to be a 1% or a 10% increase next year. So based on the success we had this first year, we thought, well, we better put some money in for an increase next year. So we averaged out at that as if we were going to have a 5% all year long increase. And that would take care of a 5-month increase, August 1 of next year, if we needed it. Again, we don't spend that money if it's not used.
And as you'll find out the presentation next week on our renewals, we are starting to accumulate some money because we move assurance, and we should get some rebate money from Blue Cross also this fall, and we're going to keep that in
Employee Benefits
Reserve. That way, if you have a catastrophic year, we can absorb it better and not have to raise rates and raise
as
taxes,
much or at all. The 15 minutes work comp, we have made our new HR director aware that our former HR was not attentive to the work comp and safety issues. Attentive in the respect that there were training classes and discussions of it, but not real attentive into controlling the costs. So we had a 40% increase last year, and we've already been told we're going to have a minimum of an 11% for our next year. So I budgeted for a 15% increase in work comp. Our new HR director knows that this is a challenge before her to make sure that we get that back down, and we've discussed it with the department heads about the goal. But it takes time to get those numbers to drop back, because we went from a 0.83% work comp to a 100%, dollar for dollar, and we're not looked at in Carrot's mind as a good client right now, because we did this in 2 years, just lost our good record, just gone in 2 years. So, and that
Because of that. Is it a systemic problem that we're not addressing on a daily matter as far as making sure we don't have accidents? We do have safety?
There were multiple reasons. We had some firefighter accidents. We had some police. And it was every department, and so we're going to just look at all of those accidents.
Some big injuries.
And we had some big injuries.
And the problem with work comp, I mean,
Couple major
sometimes the injuries
surgeries.
just, I mean,
Stuff
I've sit down in my career that we had injuries, and you look afterwards, what could we have done to stop? And you're going like, probably nothing. Other times, it's lifting, it's carrying, it's being making sure you're in the right place, all those other protocols.
So, but there are ways to control that. So we're going to get back into the habit of making that a priority and dealing with it on a regular basis. The department request for staff increases. Only thing I'm going to say there is your department heads need to justify to you why they would want an increase. But as a reminder from my side is always remember, personnel costs aren't something that is a one-time only. It doesn't go away. When you add those costs, you're adding them permanently, unless you take them completely away in the next year's budget. But it's a reoccurring cost. Okay. Utilities and fuel, as he said, we do the 8% increase because that's generally speaking 7 to 8% is all that the state usually allows in increases. If Westar comes and asks for an increase, they don't generally go over higher than that. They can, and I've seen them as high as 15%. But for generally speaking, that's what Westar and others are allowed to go on an annual basis. And he gave you the explanation on the gas for vehicles. Capital improvements are in the attached sheet, and we're proposing that most of the capital goes under a lease purchase, again, since lease purchases our percentages are so low right now.
One thing, and we're going to talk about it because Ray is probably the biggest culprit, and a little bit of Chief Johnson. That's why they're first rather than last.
Yeah.
Is we think there's some equipment needs out there that got to be addressed. And how do you address them? One option is to buy them actually this year with lease purchase money, with the first payment being due next year, and then a 5-year budget. And one of the concerns that Cheryl and I have is interest rates are still extremely low. That's a guess. I could be totally wrong too. I get that. If you wait till next year and kick it in place, will interest rates go up, and how will that affect you? As you know from a lease purchase, when you borrow money for that 2% range, Yeah, there's more cost. I'm not arguing that, but it's a lot less cost than if it's 4 or 5 or everything else. And we have some strategic things, and I know Ray's gonna go over and Chief Johnson as well, that I think we need to look at so we can keep the city operating too. There's that fine line in there, like we said before, efficiency and getting the stuff done and also keeping stuff in place. And of course, in Ray's case, you're talking about sometimes some of the things he wants are tax dollars, other time are the water and wastewater funds and stormwater funds, which are a little different game because, I think, we got our water rates, we got our increases, the plan we put in place for water and wastewater increases, that we, it's going to cover our bond and debt, but it's going to cover our, and we're pretty good shape in those. We don't have to kick them up anymore unless we want to do more work, which is a possibility. We've talked about that a little bit. Do we need to be more aggressive on replacing water lines and sewer lines? And if so, though, it may cause another increase. But we've talked about that before, so, nothing new there. So if you want to do more, you're going to have to get more money.
And the way this budget is presented to you, it's purchasing everything next year with a 2018 lease purchase payment starting the following year in 2019, the way it's presented. Okay, the cash management side, we're always going to remind you that keep cash carry in mind, and we want to always try to hit the goal is to always to hit a 20% margin. We haven't hit that yet in all funds, but it's always the goal. Street improvements is still remaining at the 1.1 million for your largest purchase out of the general fund. The budget requests have not been received yet by the library, the Chamber of Commerce, Military Affairs, Economic Development, or the Animal Shelter or Highland Park. They've been notified that they have to have it to us by the 15th so that you guys can review them by their presentation on the 17th, or the 27th, excuse me. When they present them, we have put into the budget, Military Affairs, the same as requests as last year. We've put in the budget Economic Development, the same as last year, and we understand that they may be coming with small, slight increases requests. The library, I've had no indication that they're going to increase the amount, but she hasn't presented it to me yet, and they're considering proposals for adding on to the building, and we don't know what that involves yet. And I don't think they are 100% know what they're doing, so they're holding off on their final request. The Highland Cemetery, we gave them $50,000 last year. We have actually budgeted them for $45,000 this year. Therefore, and the only other odd request we've had is a senior citizen center has approached Mr. Dinkle for $25,000 contribution.
They are asking if we want to contribute to them, and I didn't put in the budget yet. On my mind, that's been funded by the county and needs to continue. Always remember, and I've had this argument with the county commissioner one day, 78, 79% of the county tax dollars are paid by the property owners of property inside of our city limits. So don't think it's they always go, what's the balancing, or I heard this with Adibus from one county commissioner says, well, my farmers are telling me why should they be paying for the bus in town? And I says, I'm not going to contest because I'm a farm boy, I understand rural roads. But I says, when a rural road in southeast Geary County is being worked on, 78% or 79% is being paid for by the city. We're not complaining, we're a team. But don't also remember there's two parts to a team, and don't forget that. So I think some of those expenses like that, they are what they are.
So based on, and the other, my error, and I gave you all the new copies of the budget, my error was on the report for drawing this down, the first 3 months I was supposed to give you the full year of the history, and the last line on the report, when you put the number in the report, it says 517, so you got the 5 months history compared to the 5 months current. So now you have the full amount for the full year history, because I changed it to the 12 and it gave you the full year history now. That was my mistake, and I apologize. We're all getting used to the new system, but they designed this report special for me because...
See all those notes?
I know, it was my fault. But that means you read the report, huh?
Man, this doesn't look
It
right.
doesn't look right. They designed this report for us because it wasn't in it. It took me an entire 8 hours with ENCODE just to make them get it designed right, because they were supposed to give this to me with the package and they didn't, so I had to help them create it. But there was a problem with it, and I was trying to get it fixed that day, and I waited I waited for them to call and they didn't, and so I rushed to print and shouldn't have rushed.
And before you get to the department heads, I want to publicly tell them thank you. This is my third budget. Cheryl and I third budget together, even though our philosophies probably are rooted as close together as possible. But department heads did exactly, they understand the wishes of the commission, of the community, of Cheryl and I. And I didn't have to get my ink pen, I didn't have to get my red pen out a whole lot with them. I just really didn't have to, not as much as I did 2 years ago. And so they brought what we expected. So it was actually a breeze working with them. I mean, because they know what the standards are and they follow them, and they're to be publicly thanked for that.
Public Works starts.
Madam Mayor, Commissioners, one of the big items that we have asked for an increase will be in 0520, which is regular,
Page 37, right? Yeah.
page 36, I'm sorry. Under regular time salaries and wages, we are requesting that our part-time secretary become full-time, and we are asking for an additional maintenance worker one. And in lieu of that, what we will do is we have 6 seasonal positions for temp. And what we would do, we would take 3 of those away and just have 3 seasonal positions to make up for the maintenance worker 1 position. Looking at taking the part-time secretary full-time, in situations where my regular secretary is away, I have to then rely on my part-time secretary to come in and fill in for her needs. And sometimes that's hard to do when she only comes part-time from 7:30 to 11:30, and if something happens that day, my full-time secretary's sick, and then I'll have to request that if she could stay, and if sometimes she can't, and then we have our maintenance workers trying to man the phones up front, and that's not a very good situation at that time.
Glenn's not on the phone, is he?
No.
Okay. He would have said yes, I'd have said approved.
But he may be one of the good ones.
So, Ray, can you describe how having a full-time street maintenance person versus reducing from 6 to 3 seasonal is a better situation?
Right now, we have currently those positions open, and I've only been able to maintain 3 at a time. We just don't get very good response to seasonal hires. And by doing this, it allowed me to give me a full-time person that we can allocate, and we know he's going to be there all the time, and we'll be able to allocate different jobs to him.
Okay, so you're budgeted for 6 now, but you're only getting 3.
We're going to reduce down to 3, and then in lieu of for the additional maintenance worker 1. And with the part-time secretary, she will also be able to work back in the fleet department and manage their fleet program for them.
So the other thing, not only is the net pay that's on here, but that's not including when you go full-time benefits and,
That includes the benefits.
that is everything?
That's the
Okay.
net after benefits. And he's correct on the seasonal workers. They have to be very tight on what they're doing with a seasonal worker because by FSLA FSLA, by CAPER's codes, they have to work, defined as seasonal by the IRS, is no more than 4 months. And by CAPERS, it's defined as no more than 1,020 hours a year. So they cannot work a worker, so we give them a cap of 1,000. So that seasonal person can work 1,000 hours, no more, no less. Well, they can work less, but no more than that 1,000 hours, because then we have to go back to the employee and then charge them for CAPERS on the pay that they have earned. So it's gotten to the point where it's very difficult to manage a seasonal worker, and we're having troubles finding them. People want either regular part-time work or they want full-time work.
Or stay for 3 days in a row.
Yeah.
I had a note here that on electric utilities 0736, the budget was, 2017 budget was 22,575, and then on the new sheet, it's 24,000. So how did that move I understand
What number?
0736.
20, the activity for the 14 was 21,
38.
then 19, then 2107. So they put it at 24.
okay, so that's been a change since this one came out.
Yeah.
I think that's what
How
it
many
Uh,
others are like that?
Which one's he talking about?
What do you mean, change?
0736. 0736, the 2017 budget says it was 22,575 in the budget that
Oh.
we received a couple days ago. And now it's 24,000. So which one was it?
The 22.5 was correct.
If you look at last year, it had different numbers.
Or the 2018, where the one that says 2018?
They both say 24,000. My point is, if that one moved, how many others
You,
moved?
Cheryl, hang on.
Yeah, and if you look
Well,
at
see,
last year.
on electric utilities,
No, I-
2017 was 2275.
Oh, because I'm in June, in the month of June now.
And on this one here, electric utilities last year was 24.
No,
That's a budget number, not an actual.
That's a budget number.
Right.
Not the 18 budget. Did 18 stay the
well, the
same?
budget, the 24, I'm not sure why it's different on the 2017 budget.
What I
Well, last
typically do
year-
is compare
Yeah.
previous
Oh, because,
years.
because this was a partial.
And then that's what this.
No, hang on.
Now, I don't know why. These numbers are all partial.
None of this.
Yeah, these are.
matched any of that.
Now, here's, see, these are,
But the book had
They
24,000.
changed.
I'll have to find out on the
I-
2017.
I don't know why they changed
What
from this
changed?
one
Yeah, I don't
to
either.
this one.
This one would be correct. That one
24 is
should be the
correct, right?
number. I don't know what
But see,
caused
this
that.
one's,
Yeah,
this
I see
one's
that.
1,500.
Which 5 months would make,
20,000.
5 months wouldn't even be
Mine's the same.
1,500.
And that's what he said, that
The activity's correct.
not on here, on his paper he had it.
Oh.
See, this
No, it's
activity
not.
says 0. So
I'll check into it,
I
since
just,
it's a new
For
report.
what year?
I just couldn't follow it.
Yeah, I see what he's talking about. There's something going on with the 2017 budget and 2017 activity. I'll see what they're pulling on that report to find out what it is.
How much was the budget for 17?
Well, it should have been 24,000. And in the news sheet we printed out tonight, it does reflect that.
Well, my book says 24 also.
Yeah.
Okay, look at the very first
will.
line item, 0703.
0703. Advertisements and printing?
Yeah,
Right.
it says 1,500, but
1,500 for the 2017 budget?
the one I printed out could have been the periods I had put in.
Mine says 250.
Yeah,
Mine too.
current one, the current one given to us tonight is
It says
250.
20,000.
And the book says 250.
Well,
703.
250 is the next line on them.
Yeah, contractor agreement.
701 was 20 and
70 was
20.
20,000. Yeah,
Right.
those look like, appear to be correct.
I'm not seeing the
This is
change. I'm
not.
lost.
Which one are you talking about?
See? On the old one. This appears to be wrong.
Old one.
See, this is
That's correct.
1,500, this says 250.
Yeah, that's correct.
I just,
This is crazy.
What's that?
Your new one is correct. I'll even verify it. I'll look it up.
So 250 and 250, have 360 and
Well,
60.
the old one's gonna be wrong. 'cause
Yeah,
it's
the old
only
one's wrong, anyway. I'll look it up right here.
okay.
It's 00.
That should have been on this one.
Yeah. Yeah, there you are. You're on the wrong page. Okay.
Again.
Well, at least we can explain that.
The old number is wrong.
What number?
Advertising and printing.
What number's that?
The old number's on the old sheets.
But mine match up.
The
My
This
zero-
book,
doesn't.
zero
my
three.
book matches this,
Weird.
what we got tonight.
Let's see, I want to go to,
Mine doesn't, so.
Yeah.
You got a bad book.
Well, are you on the right page?
I'm looking at 073.
Or you're looking at
You're on
page
page
38.
Yeah, you're on the right page. Because you're this is Fund 24.
This is
That's
Fund 25.
Yeah.
Okay.
Are we together?
Yeah.
Is that a never mind?
Let's go this way.
Just have to get the right budget.
Mine's the same. Here's the studio.
Okay.
Magic how I changed it.
He's on the wrong, are you on the wrong page? Okay,
Technical difficulties.
good.
Yeah, we fixed that.
Okay.
All right, if you go into commodities and the 600
Give me
on
the
page
give me the
37,
Ray.
on page 37,
Whoa, 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 whoa. That's our problem. No, you're right, 37.
Okay.
What number?
and those 600 commodities under 0603, going down that line, everything stays the same, we, except in landscaping.
Hang on, we got a problem.
Okay,
What page number are you on?
37,
37. I'm on the wrong page now.
okay,
Got it, I'm with you now.
okay.
Streets went up, the lights
Okay.
went up.
Do we get a discount on this software or something, or what?
Page 37.
Right, as you're going down, I see
Turn to the
Uh-huh.
right
the
page.
street maintenance went up, the street
If-
light parts, the traffic signal
additions.
parts
Right.
all went up.
The street maintenance went up, we're asking 3,000 more. That's where we get all our road rock, our quarter-inch road rock for the grading of alleys. Asphalt comes out of there, the concrete comes out of there, all our salt comes out of there, and UPM comes out of there. Last year, we did a little over 700 tons of asphalt and 263 cubic yards of concrete. We didn't spend much on salt because we had a very mild winter so far, but we need to keep that in there just in case we get hit with one. And then we spent approximately about $30,000 in UPM to patch the roads. The street light parts go up. Basically, a street light pole in town that you see, the decorated one costs around $3,500. And the ones on Chestnut, those concrete ones, are around $6,700 a piece. We try to recoup them when somebody hits them in an accident. We try to recoup those costs, but sometimes we're not very successful.
So that leaves you, what, for 2 lights plus parts for repairing? That does? 17,000?
Yeah, it'll give us that ability to do that. Now, I know that when we get ready to do the trail project, we've got those lights that we have downtown, those decorative type lights. We're going to use them on that trail project. And if that does become possible, what I will do is buy a few more, because then we'll get a discounted price on that to try to keep a few more in stock and get a better price on them to help us that way.
And those are LED?
Yeah, these are LEDs. No, these will be different than trail light. The ones downtown have got the big globes where the trail will have a hanging head on it, so it's pointed down at this.
Downlight.
Right. But all we have to do is just buy a different head, that's all we're gonna do. But they fit the current bases that we have right now and on the parking lot and in the parks.
And these are the $3,500 lights or the $6,000 lights?
$3,500 ones.
Okay.
The 6,000 ones are the ones on Chestnut, the concrete ones, and probably the one
How
down
many
there.
lights are there along there?
On Chestnut?
Yeah,
Oh, there's quite a few.
15?
I bet there's more than that. I bet there's at least 20.
Yeah,
Okay.
there's got to be.
And they also look like the same ones that are on South Washington. Those are those ones that KDOT, when KDOT had that project, they're the ones that spec that light in for us. So,
What percentage of accidents to those lights do we get reimbursed for? 50,
Well, you can
50, or-
see, on the prior year history, like in 16, we ended up with a negative on that line item because we did get reimbursements. So it was a wash, but the prior year, we had to spend $11,000. So
We bought
year to
two
year,
then.
you just don't know. One, you can have a successful year, and next year, you don't. I mean, we've
If you hit it, don't
we've
tell
had
me.
2 this year, and you've gotten, one USAA is going to pay for part of it. And the other one was, I forget what the other one, insurance company was.
There was only one that I got partial for, and that was a hydrant that didn't even have to do
Oh, it
with
was a
the light.
hydrant.
Yeah,
Okay.
the lights
There's certain
I've
lights that have a
gotten
greater
all-
propensity of being hit, and if so, should we put those
Concrete
bollards
ballards.
or whatever around it to protect them? I guess
They have to be
since
breakaway.
we're not going to spend a bunch of money to replace all of them,
correct.
maybe if there's certain ones that are more prone to injury,
Don't your lights have to be breakaway?
Yeah, and I think that's
had
where we'll
that
probably have to check.
conversation.
Yeah, your lights need to be breakaway.
And so if you put a concrete boulder there and it doesn't break away, we might have an
Causing
issue.
damage to the vehicle.
Right, unfortunately.
Radiology costs go up, but not,
No, our costs are the same.
okay, just more of them, yeah. Okay. I mean, it's a great idea, but we have to have anything, and there's some standards on everything close to the street, we have to have breakaway.
Right.
Uniform Traffic Code.
Yeah,
Yeah.
according to MUTCD, we have to follow that.
They determine what kind of light's in there and
Right.
how it's protected.
Correct.
Yeah, we want them to break over when you hit them hard. We don't want you to hit them hard, but, you know, when you do.
And we need some traffic cameras on
So-
all the lights so they can
Not always,
get
but
license
most of it.
plates whenever they get hit.
Lights, I've had good success.
Just a thought.
You know, couldn't afford that.
Yeah.
I mean, if they don't report them, we had one the other day where the mayor had said about just a street light over here been hit by a truck. And I really believe the trucker may have not known. He hit and turned the lights a little bit. I don't know if he may have not known. I'll give him a break on that one.
Well, we've had a couple cases where we just didn't know who hit him either.
Camera.
Right.
They had the camera for the TV station if we really wanted to know. KSN TV.
Oh, God.
No,
Trying
we're-
to find it would be.
We're bogging down. We need to get going.
Yeah.
We went in 0646 operational supplies, went up 2,000. That's where we buy all our stakes, forms, lumber, all that, bolts on that type of thing when we get ready to form on streets. Oh, let's see here. Tools in 0652, that has gone up. And what we've done there, we've divided into 4 different groups as far as buying software for our equipment. The computer software that we have to read our machines, our trucks and those things, that has gone out of date and we can't update it. So we're looking to purchase a new one, which is a better situation than the one we have. Looking at an air compressor, tire balancer, and a welder. And those would be split between the street department, wastewater, water, and the sanitation department, since all are users of these pieces of equipment. Let's see here. And then under miscellaneous supplies and safety, that's where we buy all our cones, warning signs, stands, vest, hard hats, safety boots, goggles, all that type of equipment for that.
But you lowered the budget for signs, right? Yeah.
Yes, we did. So, any questions on?
Actually, commodities go up $13. Total commodities, that one piece of commodities goes up $13.
Yeah, you're right.
From 483.30 to 483.46. Very responsible.
Is that one in the middle what's currently spent, that 121 between those two?
That's where we're at.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
And that'd be as of May 31st.
Okay.
And, you know, the problem is, not so much in this one here, but you'll have certain expenses that come one time a year. You know, an insurance expense will come, you know, for property insurance will come at a certain time. So when you go look at it, you're going like, if it comes in April, you're going like, oh my God, I spent 85% of my budget in the first 3 months or 4 months. But remember what it is. And then
We're
there's other
comp-
things that we don't buy anything, you know, like his salt line for this year and stuff like that. He's through now, and we don't buy a lot of salt in June, July. But if we have a nasty October, November, December, which can happen, they'll go up. It's just, you just got to keep that in mind that don't do this. A lot of people like to go, well, I'm 8%, I'm 16%, and stuff like that.
Have a buffer.
Yeah, we have buffer.
Time sensitive.
All right, on page 38, under contract services, the big jump would be in 0715, building maintenance and repair. You can see where it says we've gone from 4 to 18,000 there. And the reason that being, I need to put a new roof on the Public Works garage area. Right currently, it's got a bunch of holes in it. And what we're looking to do is we're looking to put insulation on it, and then put a fiber board over the top, and then we'll put that Duralast roof on it.
Good.
That's around $72,000. This is going to be split between all 4 departments again, with streets, water, wastewater, and sanitation budget. So you'll see that number in there in all those departments. And we think that's a better choice than taking a spray fiber to put over the top of it. That's a little bit less, but in 5 years, you got to get another warranty back on that roof again. And then when you do this type of procedure with the fiberboard and putting a Duralast on top of it, you're getting a good 20 years out of it.
Okay.
You said it's 42,000 total?
No, it's 72,000.
22,000?
18 times 4.
Divided by 4 different departments?
I questioned that one until I looked at the inside the building.
Because Ray, when you
Change
were
my mind.
talking, you were saying that you went from 4,500 to 18,000 last year. Well, 2017 budget's actually 11,500. So are you gonna have enough money with those 4 departments? You're dividing it 4 ways?
Right,
In this year's budget, you're doing some doors and garage repairs.
correct.
Remember, we had them phase it.
Yeah, it's 72,000 total.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
And he's also going to increase, we're going to get some energy efficiency out of it too.
Good.
And then if you go down the line, everything's pretty much has gone down. The only other thing that we do, again, we're going to go under 0753, we're going to go again, we're going to lease equipment. We're going to lease that mini again. And that, again, that's around $9,000 to lease that mini excavator. And that gives us, in case, and then there's others, in case something happens, we can always rent for different things. In case a backhoe goes down or something like that, we need something, we can always do that from there.
Ray, can you talk about the engineering services 0728, 10,000 to 28,000?
We increased that because of, without the city engineer, at times we have to do some engineering studies, and we go, typically I've been asking Call Valley to help me out on some of these issues that we have. One good one is the new Dollar General store, putting in that new line and those various type of things, and they're doing the inspection on it. We have that. We also do some of that studies on the sewer line and those type of things that we've done.
But what you got to remember is, we also lowered over the last 3 years our engineering budget. It's being switched from an engineer budget, we were paying an engineer more over the here. Still all general fund. And in fact, we're less dollars, there's no doubt, because, what we had before, we were doing with benefits probably 200,000 plus. And we're not doing that. And plus, we still had a lot of the other consultings, and we've shifted that greatly. But, so when this one goes up, yeah, it's going up, but it also went down over here. It's all general fund, so it's a push and pull a little bit. So it may look like an increase, but it's probably not.
Shift.
Yeah. So it didn't affect your general fund mill levy at all, or general fund dollars at all.
Where you have identified as telephone 0735, is that cell phone? Or is
It's
that
all phones, regular phones, cell phones,
all phones?
all phones.
Okay.
It's also with your internet, isn't it, too, under telephone?
No.
No,
No.
I was wrong.
Internet and, well, for them, Metro Recharge is under 0714.
Oh, up there, okay.
Yeah.
All right, the other big one is the 0797 contract operations. Again, we out asking for $1.1 million for street maintenance improvements.
Money well spent.
Nice number. Can't be bigger.
The nice
Okay.
part about, we have the FEF money that's off separately, or FFE, that if we get that extra 50, 75, 100,000, we can take care of it. I mean, so when we say 1-1, and like this year, I mean, if the bids would have came in at what Chad's estimate was, or if we'd have had the high bid, the one that was in, we would have either had to steal from their fund or take off blocks. We didn't have to, and we're gonna be over we actually, what you approved last week is more than 1.1 million. I was no problem with it because we can pay part of the FFE and you get some projects done with the cost of asphalt this year, rocket.
Are we pretty much done with these additional expenses that KDOT's put on us, like, a gas line here or a sewer line there or
Yeah,
whatever?
this will be the last, have you got the bill yet for this year on those 3 projects?
Nope.
Okay, well, it should come anytime now.
Anytime.
This is the last year to pay for the city's share of the extra work done on Lacey, Rucker, and Spring, and 18. This is the last year, it was a 3-year payment. We paid 1, 2 years ago, last year, and this year was 3 and 200-some thousand a year, if I remember right.
260.
For all of them?
Okay, yeah, those 3.
Those
60
concrete
year for 3
approaches and
years.
stuff.
Huh?
The concrete approaches on Lacey?
Yeah, whatever you had, yeah, that was part of the.
Yeah, that was back when Greg was here.
And in Rucker,
Rucker Road.
we went all the way back in a little
Right.
further. I mean, good improvements, wonderful improvements,
Yeah.
but that's all done now.
Okay.
We're done with all the water line movies and everything else. What did we have, what was my report there, the $800,000 I said we had in FFE?
Yes.
Now, we're gonna dump 300,000 or 200 some to Golden Belt.
And we have the trail.
Yeah, our 15%, 10%, 15%,
On the trail?
yeah,
Yeah, it's at
15?
least 15.
yeah, one of those.
Yeah, it's 15 or
10 to
25.
10 to
I think
20.
it's 25.
I thought it was 25%.
25 plus engineering.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, but we have that money in
Yeah.
place. That has, even though it's probably not done, maybe kosher, sure great. It's all working out well.
Okay.
And plus then the extra cost we're gonna have to pay for lighting from
I'll explain.
Yeah.
77
Yep.
to Spring Valley.
Right.
Okay, and then I'll explain on the capital. Ray can go through the items for his capital, but the 299.5 there now, remember, I said it was going to be, most of the equipment is set up at lease purchase. This one, all was set off at lease purchase and is on the revenue side as well. Because whatever we buy under lease purchase, it shows in the expense side, but it also shows the equal amount on the revenue side, so it's a wash. And until we budget the actual lease purchase payment. As you'll notice in the street, the 2012 Public Works lease purchases finished this year. So all of the equipment from the 2012 takeover is now ours, officially.
What do you recall what all that, some of that equipment is?
Okay, you can go walk through.
On what we're looking for are 4 new salt spreaders for $60,000.
Go to,
The budget on the,
in the budget, in the book,
I was just wondering,
Under
the
capital.
2012 lease purchases, what's done?
oh,
oh,
Yeah, that's what I was.
Viola stuff, a lot of them?
all the
Unit-
Viola equipment,
Right.
there, it was a three backhoes.
2 backhoes.
Dump
a-
trucks.
A salt spreader,
Trash
couple
trucks.
dump trucks, salt dome.
Do you have a trash
The
truck in
solid
there?
waste trucks.
And the solid waste trucks, I think there were 3
And
solid
then
waste
there
trucks.
was an ambulance, and there was a bunch of stuff on the 2012 purchase.
Go to this page to give all your capitals, behind the first yellow in your book.
Yep.
So we're looking to buy 4 salt spreaders,
Behind the first yellow page.
a used pickup truck, half a street sweeper, a used grader,
Yeah,
a
one more
heat
page,
plate, and a brush mower for a Bobcat.
So Ray, if you buy 4 more salt, you have how many now?
We've got 4 salt spreaders right now. And these would,
These 4 to it?
no, we're gonna, the other 4 are very old and done. They were, I think our newest model is a 1993.
Do we sell them?
We can put them on Purple Wave. I don't know if we get much, but we can sell, we can do that.
24-year-old salt spreaders are used.
Yeah, it's pretty much done. We've patched as far as we can patch anymore, and,
Now, did you buy one in 2012?
Oh, for the little 1-ton. I'm talking for the big
Okay,
trucks.
for the big truck.
For the 5-yarder and the 10-yarder is what we're looking to purchase. Because those are the ones that do our arterials and collectors.
So it's a good thing we only had one snow this year.
Correct. I mean, they could go, but we've done a lot of major patching improvement. We've redone
Ray doesn't
floors
want to hold the
and
cup on the back of the truck.
Yeah, I can understand that.
Ray, have we, I don't know if I saw it or not, are we getting a sweeper?
Yes.
half a sweeper here and half in the stormwater.
Yeah, it's split. Split with stormwater.
About half and half.
Half a unit.
Because you got a whole one.
Yeah, you got my email.
Sure have.
Do both gutters and so get all wrong. I mean, he's right. I'm not
So
gonna
that
argue
means we'll have 2 sweepers then.
Yes, the one sweeper currently that we're using, right now, I spent over $40,000 in repairs already on it. It's a 2008 model, and
Maybe we're gonna
it
sell
it
it
needs some
too.
help, but we can keep it, we can keep it going.
Sell it too.
Selling it, relative word.
We've got an older one that it's too much to repair, and it's, I just didn't want it.
There's
It's
a
not even
little
worth
salvage
rebuilding.
value, but not much.
So it's a 1997 model.
Cheryl, if, like on a street sweeper where he's just telling us how critical it is or how bad they are, or maybe the salt spreaders, how hard would it be to say, let's buy them now, do a lease purchase this year, with the first payment being due next year?
Well, it depends how much you want to do, the lease
Yeah.
purchase
And-
payments. It would be, take the 5.
Yeah, the 5. If we have items that are, I mean,
5
let's
years
think about it
divided
over this
by-
next budget session here, because if we are critical, if he's saying, if I have 5 big snowstorms, ice storms next winter, where are we gonna be? If we're really, if the street sweeper, he just puts 45,000 expenses, when do you bail? When do you move forward? Do you wait till next year, or you do it this year with the first lease purchase? So it doesn't affect this year's budget at all. You'd have to cash thing, but it'd be offset, so that's not a problem. And, but, and have the first payment next year. Again, I think over the next 3 budget sessions, let's keep that in mind, because I realize we want to be conservative, but we also got to take care of people. And find that balance. So I'm not saying everything, but when you just heard a couple of those things, and when he talked about salt sprayer, and he's going like, you say, glad you only had one snowstorm or ice storm.
What is a used motor grader?
So motor grader, we're looking to buy one off of, from a township that's in good condition. Right now, I've got a 1976 and a 1983 motor grader. The 76 is down because of some hydraulic issues, and I don't want to spend that kind of money on that old of a model. When you're talking $4,000 or $5,000 to get that thing up and running, you're wasting money.
Did you buy fixed or articulated?
I've done one with articulating.
Corners, yeah.
And then the other one's an 83, and we have issues trying to get it going all the time to try to be able to do what we need to do, especially like grade alleys or that type of thing.
These are the issues we were talking about last year, that equipment is starting to fail,
Township
Buildings.
and buildings are starting to fail. We had 2 air conditioners
township
go down in the last week.
equipment, like you said, is great equipment, because a lot of dealers will get it, because townships will change. Township equipment is normally across the state, not really hard used. It's kept in good shape because it's kept at somebody's place a lot of times, and they have it so in the wintertime they have to move snow to get through. Township machines are sweet usually. They may have some hours on there, but they're kind hours, and
So all of your capital, what I'm hearing from you, the salt spreaders, the sweeper, and the motor grader, those are the most important ones?
Correct. We're looking at this, what the heat plate is, it's a plate that I can sit on the back of the 1-ton, and I can put the UPM on it in the wintertime, and this one is, the heat is run by coolant through there. Currently, what we do is we take a Johnny gun and light the Johnny gun underneath the plate. Yeah, so for safety factor, this would probably be very important too, because even though the stuff has got some flexibility to it, in the wintertime, it does get hard. And to get that oil warmed up, to get it where we can get that material out and put it in, it's an important thing also. But right now, the spreaders are definitely, and a sweeper are definitely top of the line, then a grader probably next. And then when I'm looking for brush mowers on the Bobcat, I can put that on the Bobcat, and I can go, especially like out at the Southwest plant, we have 300 feet that we have to mow for the railroad. It's part of the agreement we've had with the railroad, because putting the plant over there, we've got to maintain 300 feet of that area, and that's some pretty gnarly weeds and stuff in there when you mow. So I thought if we put that on a Bobcat, we can run that Bobcat through there and be able to take care of that without any problems, without having to hire somebody else to do it, or that contract mowing. That's something we could do.
Talk about the pickup truck, since you,
Well, we look, see if we can find a used pickup truck. pickup truck we have is, I believe, is a 2000. It's rusting, falling apart, the bed. You can see where the bed's coming apart, that type of thing. I mean, we're using it, but if we can get that, and
Need a pickup, not a Tahoe.
right. Especially for street supervisor, he's got to carry things and haul things, that type of thing for him.
Yeah, the Tahoes only work for certain functions.
Right.
They can't use it every single time. So there are pickup trucks we need.
They don't have a box on.
They don't have a box on them.
So then if you get a new pickup, you'll get rid of the old one in a Tahoe maybe?
Well, what we've done, we've looked at what we need, what Tahoes we will keep, and which ones we sell them for appropriate way, we can get rid of them that way.
Good.
And that way we can recoup some money that way. You're welcome.
Ready to move on to, is that all street?
That's it.
Let's move on to revenue funds, right?
Which one is that one? That was
It's on like page,
26.
What are you going here?
Eight, you say?
Which one?
Is that-
you're talking about this.
Revenues on 8?
No. Yeah. Okay, revenues, be careful in this one here. The new
At 10,000.
programming shows, in my mind, it all goes to general fund, but that's a specific one. That one there is the money, and Cheryl put 10,000, it's actually gonna be higher than that. Yeah, that's gonna be money we're getting from the state of Kansas for, KDOT for the street, for the signal lights, signalization. This fund puts it this way, normally it just goes into general fund as a miscellaneous
As a total.
revenue or something else. It all adds up the same, you know.
When a department head requests, wants to track a specific type of revenue or revenue coming in, we talked about it last year, where it comes in and Ray wasn't sure whether he was getting the money or not getting the money, and so we decided in order for him to easily track, to make sure KDOT has paid it, and to make sure we have a good tracking system on, we put in a line item specifically for the street department to be getting revenue as intergovernmental. So that when that comes in, Jolene knows where to put it. Instead of just under miscellaneous income, it goes there, and then we know KDOT has paid their bill.
What about do we get money from the light, like a West Star,
No.
or we don't get any
Yeah.
for, but?
We get franchise fee.
Well, franchise fees,
But that doesn't go
No.
into the
No.
street to pay?
just general fund.
It goes into general fund.
under franchise
And
fees.
police and fire and parks and general administration all come out of there.
Right, and you notice on the new system, it does categories and lump things together. The taxes are together, the sales tax are together, the franchise fees are together, franchise taxes, and all of those things get lumped together by category. Other revenues is all the miscellaneous, and then the departments that do take in specific revenues for their department, then is listed next.
And we get franchise fees for electric, natural gas.
Parks tracks, as you see, Parks tracks when they have reservations.
Telephone.
So they're interested to know what kind of revenues they're bringing in on reservations. So if there's certain things that a department head really wants to track, to understand how well they're doing or not doing on a certain category, they ask us to track it separate. And that's what you're seeing there. And that's why it's a new number.
Thank you.
And there was and I question this too, in some of the budget book, there was a couple of areas Xed out. Okay.
That was for your purpose.
Yeah.
I wanted to point that out to you to remind you that we had split Fund 14 is separate now as water fund, and it used to be water, wastewater was together on 15. And I Xed out on those pages to remind you that we split those funds, and so you don't want to use that history as wastewater. It's not wastewater anymore. Wastewater, water, those are numbers that were together before, and now they're split.
And on most budgets, you have to 3-year, and it'll drop off now.
Yeah, it'll drop off after a
This
year
year.
from now.
Yeah, because we're split this year, right?
I'm
Yeah.
glad you noticed, because I wanted you to question why is that was Xed, because I don't want you using those numbers because they were together numbers.
Cheryl just don't make things up. I had to figure out what she did there.
My subliminal
She has some
messaging,
pretty good messages, but yeah.
but I'm glad you noticed.
We're going to page 8.
We already been there.
Okay, page 8, now you go to,
That's revenue.
That's what you said, go to page 8.
Oh,
I was
that's
going
right.
off page 8.
You need to go, we're gonna go water?
Want to go water?
Okay.
We're gonna go Cheryl water?
yeah,
It'd be
that's fine.
49, right?
Whatever's next on the list.
51 would be,
Look here.
That's the next one.
Water.
49 and 51. 49 is the revenue side.
We're not going to special highway
No,
next?
49. Oh, you can go special highway,
We can go
79.
special highway.
Yeah, we just,
79, stay on streets.
Okay.
Okay.
Now, Ray doesn't really control that fund, so I'll just give you a quick synopsis, okay, Ray?
Yep.
Ray, under the KDOT fund, you have to remember that we get approximately $650,000 a year from KDOT, I shouldn't say KDOT, from the state of Kansas for gas tax. Because by state-controlled formula, gas taxes are shared. Okay. When we get, and they give us an estimate each year what we're going to get. And they're usually pretty close on their estimates. Remember, we have 400,000 of that money automatically by choice during our crisis gets 200,000. 300,000. I forget, there's too many numbers.
We changed it last year.
Yes, that's right. Goes over to debt because we have all those debt payments to pay for the KDOT loans that we borrowed money for. So half of that money goes over to pay debt, all the debt on the KDOT loans. Then the other half is committed towards clink projects. Like this year, it's paying for the 260,000 that we are owing KDOT on those three highway projects, and it'll pay for our portion of the clink projects and any of the grant match. We can use it for regular street maintenance, but we historically have tried to keep that money set aside so that it doesn't impact the general fund for our clink grants or any other KDOT grants that we are applying for. You're also applying for the sidewalk and bike path.
Yeah, the TA projects.
That we can use a small percentage of that for this, our matching money.
10%.
Up to 10% per year. So those are the kinds of uses for that money. So we really don't allow him to use it for his day-to-day operations. It's more set aside and reserved for grant matches.
You put connecting link money in general fund?
Yes,
Okay.
it does.
We get paid so much a lane mile for the streets we maintained at our highways. 57,
It's only $35,000 a year.
40 business.
K-18.
It doesn't even pay for the street
Doesn't
sweeping we
do
do,
much,
we
but-
do on them, but
That's why when KDOT mentioned it makes 77, I'm going, no, they don't pay me enough. I mean, it's in the city, but they don't pay me enough.
it's not even enough to pay for the street sweeping we do on those
No.
streets. So basically, if it reaches a point where we had no grants to apply for and we didn't have things to do with that money, we could use it for regular street maintenance, but we're not there. We still have KDOT projects that we need to match money on
Well,
and do grant match.
transfer out goes basically to pay those KDOT loans.
Yes. Now, there is a little bit of surplus in there per se. Well, last year's 22. There at year end we had 459,000 in there, and we're going to get another 600,000. So they're going to be about $1 million, and then we're only planning on spending about 400,000.
Plus
But you could always use that to pay down debt,
300.
plus 300.
Yeah.
So you can use it to pay down debt if you want more debt, or you can use it for other things. But what the intention is now is let's get settled in all of these clink projects and all of these other major projects that we're doing right now. Get that all settled down, get them all paid for, and then we'll make another set of goals and plans on how we're going to spend that money. So I'd say give it one more year, and then we'll do a reboot and set up for the next goal. Because we intentionally set this money aside to get through all of these big projects that we were doing, so that it wouldn't impact the general fund. And that plan worked, because we wouldn't be able to do all these clink projects and these other things without that money.
And remember, when we do a clink project, like this one we're going to do here shortly, it's either going to be paid for half by money from KDOT, or it's money we got from the state. It's not our property tax dollars. So when we get done from basically 70 or Home Street on Washington, all the way down there, over there was no local tax dollars in there.
Right.
It was KDOT funds, and it was, it
Gas tax.
becomes our money, don't get me wrong, it becomes our money we could have used elsewhere, but it did not affect
The general fund.
the general fund property tax.
We're also careful about allocating too much money to this fund because KDOT and the legislature for 3 years in a row has threatened to take that money away from us. So we're really careful about being dependent upon it.
See, and they took about 10, 12 years ago, we used to get more, every city used to get more.
Used to get a lot more.
It used to be 94.5 some percent of your KDOT, of your highway money, special highway money, came from gas taxes. And then the other 6.5% came from the state general fund. That went away. That was the demand transfer. That 6.5 went away. So now it's just this. Remember, gas tax is not the amount of gas we sell in this town.
No.
It's a formula across the state. If you have a community, the little town of Junction, where I grew up, little city of Junction, gets gas tax money, even though there's no filling station in that town. They sell no gas in that town. It's based on a formulation of population.
Populating lane miles.
3 miles and everything else. So when you hear that, people say, well, it's because we bought, no, yeah, it's all part of the picture, but it's split down by percentages and formulas. So if you go to a small city in Kansas, again, like the one I grew up near, they get gas tax money, even though there's no gas sold in that community.
So we're cautious
Gas
about.
that's used in the
We're
community.
cautious about using that for regular maintenance. We don't want to become dependent on it, and we set it aside for grants. We're going to get through all these projects, and that's why it's budgeted the way it is. We have 2 projects in here, it's revenue in, and we budget the full money out. In case we have a surprise project we needed to put it on, you would have the budget authority to do so.
And remember, you still got some KDOT money to pay off, so we're fine.
Is there a certain amount that KDOT will allow you to have in store?
It's ours.
Okay.
They can't take away once they give it to us.
Okay. I was just,
Unless you
since they're
spend it
probably
wrong.
always looking for money, I
Well,
just didn't want to get caught
They,
short.
they do want us, and Cheryl and I were in Topeka a year and a half ago, yeah, a long time ago now, because we have,
We had a lot.
well, we have,
Then we pay for
right
that
now we
gas
have 9 million,
sewer line, I mean.
yeah, we have $11 million worth of KDOT debt.
Yeah. They wanted us to pay
And their
down.
state total,
They wanted to write off some of the debt if
well,
we
they wanted
take
us
lane
to,
miles.
that's when they wanted to take lane miles over and give some of that, because
Oh.
we are one of the,
Well, we were
we're,
50%.
yeah, we're 50% of the money they have out there in this KDOT funds. So. they're under
50% of the
pressure.
loans.
But we also, and they're
number one.
nasty because there is no, when we were having tough financial times, Cheryl said, can you wait a day or two? No. And we didn't. Everything was paid on time. But there was no give on them. So, one of those gets paid off this year.
Yeah.
And then the majority of those go 27, 28, 29. So if we do have more money, we can get some of those paid off a little sooner, because those interest, well, it's going to depend what interest rates are in a couple of years. Yeah, those are 3.5% to 4% interest.
So it depends where we sit
Depends where interest
financially
is, yeah.
in a year or two before we evaluate that. So that's the special highway. That's the story of the special highway fund.
Any of those eligible for refinance?
No, you can't refinance them. The state will let
Well,
you.
because we don't have enough general obligation, you technically could, well, God, that'd be tough.
Depends on what your geo debt is or what.
Yeah, but to do
we're not
geo
getting-
debt,
The interest rate, the dual market interest rate isn't any lower, so it wouldn't be worth it.
yeah, I mean, we kill you, yeah.
The revolving loan funds are geared to sit at the lowest interest rate, approximately, the lowest interest rate on the market. And so they're hitting at 3.5. Highest I've seen is 4% recently, but they're pretty low.
Okay.
So it'd be best to pay it off if we could after we reboot, or pay it down.
As part of the.
Think about it.
Yeah, we'll think about it.
Okay.
And if
Based
interest
on where
rates,
we're at.
if interest rates have moved up and we can use it to, or if you believe in the 3 or 4 years that, hey, for a couple of years, let's take that extra $300,000 or a couple they were using for projects and maybe add another 100,000 to street repair. I mean, that's options that the commission at that time will have to look at.
But we didn't, to this point, hadn't worried about that because we had so much lying out there on projects that we were partnering with KDOT on that we couldn't afford to say anything but let's do these projects and then we'll reevaluate.
So we go, what, FAF now or what?
Well, next is water, I think, on the list.
Water?
Water distribution.
Do we need to touch FFE? FFE's money, I mean, I don't know if there's anything really budget there. We get money
No.
in, we get it sent out.
Yeah, I don't have that.
unless you have a heartburn about it, but it's,
Page 49 is revenue 51,
where you at, water?
40, yep.
Okay.
Ray doesn't handle the revenue side of this, but just so you know, these revenues are based on historical, even though we only have the one history listed here. When we split those out, those are based off of the numbers we get from, off of our financial report from, what's the name of the company we did?
Columbia
Off
Capital?
Dallas?
Yes. Okay.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
So
You're right.
Okay.
transfers was the split of the cash, as you can see there. That's a one-time only. The split of the 3,000,006, that was where the actual split of the cash. I could put a few dollars there in interest. I didn't, but I could. Water utility, water, wastewater, stormwater, all enterprise funds. Cash in, cash out. They don't affect your tax mill levy. You base it as you run a business. You run these funds as if you were running a business.
One thing we're gonna run into in water and wastewater next year is Carrie is gonna run plants that we don't know what's gonna cost to run. So we got some guessing this year. We have new chemical processes, and Carrie, you know, you better rely on that. We have new chemical processes, new chemicals we're using. Until you run it a year or two, there's gonna be some guessing. But again, as Cheryl says, many and now we have a little bit of work with, you know, we'll get through it, but there's still some, it's harder to predict that number because we're going where we haven't been before.
Is that the ammonia process that we'll be implementing?
It's, at the water treatment plant, it's gonna be more. You're gonna add ammonia, which you've never done before, pardon me.
Okay.
And those are significant costs, and that's what we're talking about. That's the preliminary numbers from HDR and our own people. We've taken it to our technical people, and we're doing the best we can with our suppliers. What can you give it to us for? Everything else. Start out hard, and then we're gonna make it more efficient as we go along.
Yeah. As you go through it, it's going to get easier.
So we know we're going to have some adjustments to
And the
make.
change in the wastewater side is what?
The
Polymers?
wastewater side is, it's a little different process. Plus they've got new equipment in there, and that's gonna be another one, it's a biological process. At the Southwest plant, they're gonna be feeding polymers and stuff because you're gonna change the way they do. Also another one of those processes, it's gonna increase the cost. We will work overtime to make that more efficient and get back. There's more equipment over there. Probably at the East Wastewater Treatment Plant, it's process and it's gonna stay. All three plants are a little bit different. At the East plant, that's just very old, cobbled together equipment. We're gonna upgrade that stuff. I expect that place to be more. There's not gonna be any new chemical feed processes over there. That place may, once we get, will be more expensive at the water plant. Definitely at the water plant. It has been. It will be maybe a little more expensive. The startup costs, that's what we're trying to predict for 2018.
We got some guessing.
Alan, some worst case scenario numbers perhaps is what we. It will get better.
Right.
It always gets better.
So some of these numbers we may be adjusting between now and the end of July.
But it's not gonna be again, we're not affecting tax dollars, it's just.
No.
We have to operate, you know.
Okay, so,
And that should be built into your rate increases that you had put in already, so.
but the distribution starts on page 51.
Okay. Under commodities, we have a big jump in 0632, that's street maintenance gravel, that's when we do utility repairs, going from 18,000, asking for 3,000 more to 21,000. The other big item is under,
Why do you have street maintenance and water?
for the utility repairs,
When they
we'll
open
get
up
ready
the
for
street.
Streets.
I want to tell them.
Main
so they have
breaks.
to ask. Yeah, I knew what it was, but. Okay, but I want to make sure, because people look, street man?
0646 operational supplies, it's going up 22,000. What we're looking for here are to buy 11 hydrants. Well, 4 of them are 5-foot berries, though that's the length on the hydrant pipe, and 6-foot berries, and those range from a 5-foot berry, a hydrant's $2,074 a piece, and for 6-foot berries, $154. That also includes our repair clamps, yokes, meter pits, piping, and all that. So that's why the
Placing
increase.
these hydrants because of,
Some are non-functional, old, and so we're replacing them out and changing them out.
okay.
Under, let's see, tools, that's gone up. What we're looking to do is purchase brand-new crimper, new trapping drill that we do our services with, put those taps in there, those type of things. Your normal shovels and those type of things that break, and then replace those. Under shop, again, that's, it's gone down, but that's also the quarter of that software fleet, air compressor, tire bouncer, and welder that we split between these 4 departments to take care of that. And for the majority, that's it, unless you have any other questions on commodities and any 600.
Okay.
You go right ahead.
You got one too? I had a question on 0520. In 16, we were at 144,000. 17, we went to a budget of 222,000. Activity to date is 74,000, and we're 6 months into this. It would tell me that we're going to spend 150,000, yet we're asking 228. Could you explain that?
Which one was that, Commissioner McKelson?
Up here.
520.
Overtime,
0520.
salary and wages.
Oh, okay.
You got some increases in that extra personnel.
Right. We did promote a maintenance 1 worker to maintenance 2 worker. So we got some increases of that. You also have to take in consideration of part-time secretaries, then go into a full-time secretary.
In the shop,
And then, right.
mechanic.
And for the mechanic and that, adding that in there.
Okay,
Yes.
Okay.
the reason it stays the same, even though you added a maintenance worker and you increased the secretary to full-time, you added 1 maintenance worker to the water, wastewater, and you took, but we took out the position for the engineer and assistant engineer is no longer charged to this budget. And the reason is not, one of the reasons it's not spending on this year's is we had budgeted the engineer, the assistant engineer, and the assistant director, and none of which we've hired. And so in the 2018, we finally took out the engineer and assistant engineer position, but he added a maintenance worker and taking the secretary from part-time to full-time.
Well, we would have the ability, when we get to the point in time in the budget yet, if we want to add assistant,
Right.
we can do that. And again, I don't want to spend money. Budget is authority we can use, but we ain't going to spend it until we need it.
But that explains
By
why
needs.
that from 17 to 18 stays about the same, even though he added positions. But and it also explains why he hasn't spent as much this year. Because there's 3 positions in there that hasn't been
And you got to
spent.
realize, this last year activity, was that split?
But,
Last year activity, we had water, wastewater still together last year, right?
yeah,
So the 16 number might be, it's more of a swag than it is a real number, as 17 will be next year.
no, those were always split like that.
They were, okay,
They were split.
no problem, I'm sorry.
They were always split within the fund.
Yeah, okay.
And you answered
They
it.
just moved from one fund to
My
the other.
question was, why are we at 75,000?
Yes.
And we
There's a-
still have 6 months to go. It appeared to be that we only needed 150,000, but
Yeah.
with the increase, understand, got it.
Increase in 3 positions not being used
So
right
that
now.
means we're saving money right
Yes.
now.
Well, if we don't, yeah.
Because we're not
Talking about
spending if we
budget
didn't want,
authority,
didn't need
especially
to.
these funds, we're talking about budget authority, not so much, we're not going to spend if we don't need it. And I think that's been, done that for years anyhow, you know.
Right. Okay, no, that answered it. Thank you.
And if something blows up big time, it's a cush area. If he has miles of 16-inch blow up,
Well, we still have miles to go, so
Yeah.
so far it's miles have blown up. So.
On the computer hardware, I want to make sure that you budget every 5 years. We tried to extend it beyond that, and the only thing we're doing is hurting ourselves. We got to make sure that every department has the ability to operate, and even though it comes through the IT section, we got to make sure that we add it in the budget.
Well, it comes in here, but he's the one that directs it, so.
Because we didn't allocate, and we're carrying around pretty much bricks that don't work, the iPads that we have. So we need to make it a point that do not go beyond 5 years. You budget for it for 5 years. If it works beyond that, put it in a box, but it only detracts rather than adds to. Thank you. Don't be afraid to spend it, because it's going to help out in the long run.
Well, he directs all that, so.
I have to look at Jim to say, can I spend it?
Just look at him and give him that look. He knows. Operational.
Moving right along.
Okay, on page 52, under the 700 items there, again, the big expense is 0715, building maintenance repair. Again, there's that 18,000 put in there for that quarter of that roof to repair on the Public Works building. And then you also see under, let me look here, under 0749 other services, it stays the same at 75,000, and that's, we were looking to do more. When we do services and upgrades, we have to do some bores across the street. We're looking to do 12 of them for the upcoming year, because those have to be upgraded. And then also, in case we have main breaks that we can't take care of, some of those like 16-inch mains that are down 15, 20 feet that we can't get to. And then we have to contract those services out, because we just don't have the equipment to be able to do that.
Nor is it efficient for us to buy the equipment for it, but it's
Correct.
cost effective to actually hire it out. So you have to have money reserved for that,
A heck of a lot safer.
and a heck of a lot safer.
And keep the workman's comp down.
I had a question on the 0728. We budgeted 5,000, current activities 10,000, but we're only budgeting 18, for 18, 5,000. Is that going to cover that?
A lot of this was the special, as we're working on moving that water line. That was some
Most of it had to
engineering
do with
costs.
What the
KDOT.
increase was?
KDOT
Yeah.
projects and.
Those
and-
projects
Yeah,
that we had?
and,
70.
and there's gonna be some guesses in that one.
Okay.
We have no major projects other than the water plant improvements. Angela?
Okay.
Okay, your next fund would be wastewater,
And that would be on page,
57 and 63. 57 is the revenue side. Again, that's really numbers that we chase along based on the wastewater history and the report that we did for the financial report. Nothing exciting or new there. Okay?
We do 100,000 transfer to debt, right?
Yes.
Right here, yeah.
Well, here,
Yeah,
no,
water.
wastewater? No. That wastewater transfer is 485 or 585. The total transfer.
It's in the general fund, hang on.
It's, no,
Ooh, you don't have that in there, Cheryl.
Yeah, I don't see it in there.
because it's somewhere else. I'll have to go back and look.
Okay.
It's under administration.
Oh, yeah, okay.
That 585 gets transferred to
Under
where?
water administrations, which I'll go over on the 27th. It is under, on page 60, 485,000. The number's not there.
Yeah, we gotta put it in there.
Should be, though.
Yeah, catch that.
That goes to general fund.
Where at now?
I got
Page
it.
60, yeah.
In here? I'll get that number put in there. It is on the state budget form.
Do, yeah.
Correct. We budgeted for 485,000 transferred to the general fund and 100,000 for transfer to
I'm
debt.
off a beat somewhere.
The same as we did last year.
Page 60?
It just doesn't show
Yeah.
on this sheet. Okay.
I messed up, hang on.
Oh, because that's,
That's because I'm grabbing different books, too.
oh, that's why, because that's water distribution. I'm on
I had my
wastewater.
books. Which is fine, it's just, you know.
No, it's there. Page 66, wastewater transfer would be, it's 585, because we increased that last year. Because we reduced the amount that we were transferring from other funds and increased it out of water, wastewater. 485 out of,
What are we transferring into debt service? We're transferring 300,000 from
well, we reduced special highway and we reduced it in stormwater.
stormwater, and we added 100 to, I thought 100 to water and 100 to wastewater.
So that's 45 and 100, which equals 585.
But you need to, do we need to split that out, because it's,
It says to the general fund. I do need to split that.
okay.
Because I'm
to
going to
debt
have
service.
to,
Okay, offset it.
I'm going to have to split that because she doesn't have one that says
We're right then.
to debt service.
Okay,
She'll have to create a new line item
okay,
before we finalize the budget.
okay.
I noticed that too.
We have our
Yeah, to be legal. That will actually get split.
numbers, the dollars right.
I wanted the dollars there, and that was
You're
what's
perfect.
important.
It's the right column.
Okay, so where's your wastewater?
It should be on page 63.
63.
Can we get back up to one item on page 57?
Okay.
Fourth one from the top, 0364, where it's tap and connect fees. Are we charging the appropriate amount for that? I remember.
Tap and connect. That's an issue that kept coming up over the last 2 years and whether we should increase those. My opinion, we should. I think we should do an analysis on it and
What's a big difference?
survey surrounding communities and find out what everybody's doing. But you notice those tap and connect fees, I didn't drop them down, no, I did drop them down because we're just not getting the activity.
Exactly. Okay.
So if in the history we've only had $20,000 income and we have no new houses being built right now, if that trend continues, we won't have any revenue.
Okay.
Let me throw something out here again, one of these thought processes as we go to the budget West Way. If we want to talk about some increased revenue in water and wastewater and a bit in general fund,
Yes.
we talked about it a little bit when I first got here, and I knew you talked about it back in maybe Jerry's days when he was here, is do we want to start collecting for those people that use credit cards to pay their bills? We're about $70,000 to $80,000 the rest of the city eats for those that use credit cards. Most cities on water and wastewater, on utility payments, charge a service fee. In court here, we have some that use credit cards also. We charge a service fee? And part of me is going like, I didn't get in trouble, so why should I or any other citizen pay for you to be able to use a credit card? And you did that to spread your payments out, but it's to your benefit, not mine. And it's something we want to look at.
Same with utility payments.
Yeah, you do the same way, too. It spreads them out for me, but why should everybody else in the city have to pay for it? Why can't we put that in water lines and everything else? There's a couple of credit areas that are going to be tough to get away from and add a fee to would be our so-called, I don't call them revenue, but a recreational, golf course, spin city, and in the swimming pool. And some of that is just maybe that's one of the gives you have to give because, mom takes, somebody says, they take 8 grandkids to the swimming pool and don't have cash, they use the credit card. I don't want to hit those. Those are things that I think the community can eat because they're small. Mm-hmm. But these big dollar items, and we're talking what'd you tell me, 70 to 80,000?
70, 80,000 a year.
Is in credit card fees that we eat.
Like 2%? Is that the credit card companies charge 2%?
It ranges, depends on, and it also depends on the amount that you're charging. I think it's 0 to 50, 50 and up, 50 to so many dollars, and then it ranges anywhere from 2.5% to 3.5%, depends on what the charge
It's
is.
not something we have to decide tonight because it doesn't affect a whole lot here, but it's something I think it's worth looking at.
You can't charge outrageous fees. You have to be equivalent to, or fairly equivalent to what it cost you.
But
Everything's going electronic.
Yeah.
the day of writing a check is getting fewer and far between. What is the analysis of only accepting checks versus credit cards? The efficiency with credit cards offsets.
But checks are pretty efficient in their system that they have.
We pay $85 a month for a scanner. So it's a very nominal cost for us to scan their checks every day. So the day we receive the check, the day is when the money goes in the bank. So the next day. Because we get paid on one day, we scan it first thing in the morning, and we get paid that day. So it's very fast. So and it's very nominal cost per month. Where a credit card is based on a percentage of what you have paid.
There's always a lag
And there's
that
a 10-day
check
lag.
has to clear the bank.
But the other side of the
I
coin.
didn't know what the efficiency was.
But see, we charge you no extra, and we have no extra cost for those of us that pay.
ACH.
ACH.
Yeah, there should be an upcharge for that.
Yeah, I mean, I use ACH, and some people don't want it, and I get all that. My contention is my bills due whatever day my bill's on, and actually on ACH it's nice because you wait till the last day, don't you, or close to it. And so I'm getting some extension of time and everything else, and I'm not,
Is there a difference in the fee for debit versus
No.
credit? Because debit comes out immediately, whereas credit does not.
If it is, it's nominal. And
Again, I want to look at it, it's just something,
Yeah,
again,
yeah.
since we're talking about revenue here, just throw it out there a little bit to you.
The state of Kansas charges for it. I just had to renew a license.
Erie
They just-
County does.
And the only way to do it online is to use a credit card.
That's right.
And they charge a fee.
And they charge you a fee for it. Otherwise, you have to wait for 6 weeks to get your license.
Now, our website, we don't get this money, but our website charges $1.25. And you can go on the website, but we don't get that revenue. That goes to the
party.
company who is managing that website on our behalf.
Right.
And so we don't see a dime of that. So
I
if
would-
somebody uses a credit card via the web, they get their $1.25, but we still get charged the percent of what it costs to use a credit
We
card.
need to get that in place right away.
Exactly.
We don't need to wait till
Little
next year.
important.
Okay.
Yeah. Again, I just want to toss it out, it's just, time to talk about it.
We wait till next year.
What about check?
Mine's done online. Get it in.
It was 63?
All right, moving,
Yeah, 63.
Page 63 under the commodities. You look at it, we have an increase in the chemicals, and that's for us to buy root control and degreaser. That way we can do some of these lines right away without having any kind of issues to try to get those cleaned up. And then under 0646, operational supplies, that's gone up. And that's buying repair clamps, pipe, lift station parts, reed, globes, check valves, those type of things that we have. We've got 22 lift stations in the city. So we've got to maintain those and keep those going, or we will have some future problems if we don't. Let's see here, under and I think for the most part, that's from our major increases there, unless you have a question on any of the others. And if you go to page 64, again, under 0715, you can see the 18,000 for the quarter of the new roof for the Public Works garage. And the other major item is 0749, other services, and we're looking to budget 430. That takes care of our sewer cleaning services as well as Duke's root control to take care of some of the major lines that we have, some root issues that they maintain that, and there's a guarantee on that when we do that.
and
I don't have any others.
capital equipment.
And what we're looking for there is a cost of a new van to try to put the new camera unit that we're going to purchase this year. Right now, we're using an old ambulance that we're using. And hopefully we can upgrade and get a better van to be able to put that in there.
Well, how's it in there? You just carrying it around?
No, we mount it in there, and we just take a computer and then hook it, like the hose reel and a camera are there, and then the hose reel's already mounted in there, and the camera's in there, and it's mobile, and you take it out and drop it in the hole. But the computer desk and everything's in there, and you gotta hook that to it, and the camera's already mounted in there.
So we're spending $400,000 on sewer cleaning?
Correct.
Remember, the goal is to do a quarter of the city every 4 years, because the law requires you to maintain the lines once every 5 years. A minimum of once every 5
Not
years.
so much the law, but good common practice as far as insurance
Well,
and liabilities.
I'll just say law practice.
Yeah.
Law history.
Quarter
In
of the
court, if you
city?
go to court, you're going to probably lose on a case if you don't show proof of
4 or
some
5
kind of
years.
maintenance once every 4 or 5 years on a line.
I was thinking every 4.
Some kind of maintenance. So the
So
insurance companies,
this will be a recurring cost.
A reoccurring cost.
$100,000.
Well, but I
didn't
do
do it last
think
year,
once
did
we
we?
get through
We did
all
some.
the ACE stuff,
That may be cheap.
we may not have to do the whole, I mean,
After a
Well,
4-year
it was
cycle,
equipment
maybe
we
just
got.
hit the trouble spots. and
yeah, we
that's
Correct.
can do a little bit and use our truck more.
yes, a combination.
The cool part with the ACE stuff is Ray's also building a heck of a database.
Right, we're taking pictures of it, we've got it on a jump drive that I can put it into our program that we got sewer view, and I'm able to log that in there, and I can make notations of what's wrong with the sewer lines, cracks and which are bad, and we can figure out what we gotta do to replace that pipe, or how we're gonna do that in the near future. So we're able to log all that, and we'll know what we got within our system.
And in the future, we won't necessarily be cammering every single line every single time.
The cost will go down too.
Because the
Ray
cost
is
will go down.
building a heck of a baseline.
Okay, I just
Doing a
questioned
super
it,
job.
Yes.
because it's a substantial change.
It is a substantial change. But those are also the things that we talked about under the Raffles study that we needed to do, as well as, same with the water lines. We needed to start maintaining our lines and start looking at what we're going to need to fix and repair and what our priorities are going to be.
That's why I think that should really be tied into streets as well. If we're gonna be replacing mill and overlay, whatever, and we got lines buried underneath it, why don't we do it once and fix it, and then we don't have to tear it?
We are looking at that right now, Call Valley, and that's what we are looking at it, looking at where we're at. We're trying to also, as far as the water lines, figure out where the replacements are gonna be, and that way we can make sure that we don't put in a new street and then come back and rip it
Exactly.
back up to replace the
Tie
line.
it all together.
So we're gonna try to tie all that together as a capital improvement.
Okay.
On your capital again, on the book right here, which we didn't talk about, maybe it's not the time, but the remodel the customer service counter under water utility and wastewater.
That'd be under my operations.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll
Thank
talk
you.
about that on
Okay.
the 27th.
Thank you. Next.
Stormwater?
Stormwater's next.
70.
70 and 72. On the revenue side, there's no major changes, other than to reflect a more accurate number of what we collect. I mean, we haven't decided on any rate increase, so I just took it back to a more accurate number of what we currently collect.
Ray, on 0520,
Correct.
we went down 34,000. Explain that to me, please.
We have, currently, we have a maintenance worker 1 in that position now. We did have a maintenance worker 2 position that was operating the sweeper, so his salary is a lot higher. So we're back down to the minimum salary again.
Okay.
And that's for his full-time wage, yes. Yeah.
I had on
So solid waste next? 80 and 81, 81 and 82. Revenue is just based off historic use. We, again, have not budgeted for a rate increase. I'd say likely after 2018, likely a rate increase in 2019 to keep up with equipment purchases. But I don't believe we need a rate increase yet. So 82 is your budget.
Okay. On page 82, one item that'll go up is 0520 under personnel. We're asking to add another maintenance worker 1 into that position. Right now, currently, we've got 6 people in that position, and 4 of those guys now are maxed out on the PTO, so it makes it kind of tough for those guys to rotate out and be able to continue what they're doing. It's kind of a safety factor in the sense that if we can add that extra person, we could also probably do more. One of the other things we're looking to do is we've got to be able to know which cart belongs to which house, and by being able to do this allow the foreman to go out and be able to track those numbers, make sure we've got the right cart, the right place.
We should do an inventory tracking of all the cart systems at least once every 5 years, and it hasn't been done. Jolene thought last time she remembered it being done was in 2007, maybe.
Yeah.
So we haven't tracked our cart system for a long time. So we need to get out there and find out what the condition of, and,
Service or what?
Yeah,
because we
haven't
track
put
them by
they put the numbers-
cart number.
They put the numbers on there. And we
Yeah, there's an
haven't-
inventory number on them.
Correct, and we haven't done that in
We need to do
ages.
that. Hadn't been
Right.
done in a long time. Because we haven't had the workers. And we're financially sound, definitely financially sound in this fund now.
And the inventory is just so you have track of where they're all at and.
That, and it helps with customer service because, for instance, we had a claim last week and they were upset because we charged them for, or we hadn't brought them a cart. Well, according to our records, there was a cart at that house already, so we didn't bring them a cart. So they were angry because he didn't get service for 2 whole weeks. Well, they didn't call and tell us they didn't have a cart. But he was angry because the cart wasn't there. But according to our records, there should have been a cart at that house. And so we're going, well, where did the cart go? And so, I mean, that and just in general, we need inventory, check out the condition of our product, our services. It's just part of doing business. We should know where our inventory is at, what the condition of it is, and are we doing the best service we can do based on what we have. Now, we don't go and pick up the carts when somebody moves. A lot of systems, in fact, I would general to say most systems, once somebody leaves a house, they go out, they get the cart and remove it. We don't, because we haven't had the staff to do that. You know, maybe with this additional worker, and once we get a handle on everything, then we can possibly do that. But we don't pick up a cart and then deliver when someone new moves in.
But if I would move out of my house and Mike would move in, and he decided that he was getting his trash from their service, what happens? We may not know that cart. I mean, we have nothing to track
On that
it right
case, they would
now.
have a work order because they have to come and prove that they're going to have service from another.
Okay, you got that
They have to
covered now.
show us a
Okay.
contract.
Correct.
Because it's a mandatory law, they have to show that they have trash
Our
service.
city law, yeah,
By city law.
yeah.
Okay, they have to have trash service. So they have to prove that they have trash service with a contract from the other company. So then once they do that, then we'll take them off of our trash service and we send out a work order and we'll go pick up our cart. But that's the only time we remove the carts. So technically, the house should have a cart there and it should be number XYZ. And we haven't inventoried them in a lot of years.
Can't we do some of this work by intern or by part-time or?
Or maintenance one worker, he's talking about is our lowest paid staff member.
Right.
It looks like it's about 40,000.
Well, that's with benefits, not all
That's with
salary.
benefits and everything.
And if they were part-time, then you wouldn't have all those benefits stacked on.
No, no, you're right.
I mean, there's some efficiencies there. If you had a part-time all the time doing those types of duties, I think we would save more than 41,000. The 41,000 increase is a full-time maintenance one.
Correct.
Yeah.
With the benefits.
Well,
I think we need to think about some of those positions where we could do that.
One thing we have to be real careful of, and I'm not gonna pick on Ray, but we have to watch our capers, because if you go north of 1,000,
And north of 1,000 a year, you pay capers, but if you don't want to pay the health insurance benefits, which is your largest benefit number, you take that 6,000 off a year, and only pay, and don't pay health insurance if you work them under 30 hours,
one of the, and
30 hours a week. I
Ray
mean,
hires a temporary person, and this person is great. Shows up work every day, does everything Ray says. So we have now, and so they were temporary, so they're not charged capers. And they work 600, 700 hours. And then Ray goes, I have an opening. This guy goes, I want to apply. Ray goes, I want you, and I want you bad. Well, when he hits 1,000, we have to hit him with capers, and we have to pay back, but so does he. It's a bad, I mean, it's not, we have a system to work with. I understand why Ray wants, I mean, if somebody came and worked for me for 5 months and just is great, why wouldn't you want to hire him?
So
I
you're
mean,
moving from part-time to full-time, and
but
you get,
his problem is
all retroactive.
he now has to pay for 1,000 hours of capers. That was it 6% that we pay on an employee?
6% for employees and 8.46%.
Yeah, so we got to go back to 846 city, but that employee now gets charged back. I can't beat the, I mean, it's a necessary evil, but I get why Ray and Ed's same way. You get a good temporary person that, let's get them full-time and make them, you know, and have them for years.
Cost some money.
Yeah, but
It
it
costs
costs
money.
both of us money.
but is it that person's option, though?
No capers is no option.
No option on capers, and they make you back
Work
pay.
for the city of, you work for the city of Junction City, you're paying capers. Or
Okay.
KP&F, I mean, yeah.
Which we had two.
The only way you get out of it is you call them temporary seasonal employees.
Okay.
If they're part-time, you pay capers. If they're full-time, you pay capers.
Okay.
Under 0646, you see that big number of 60,000, that's where we buy our carts, dumpsters, parts for the carts, parts for the dumpsters, those type of things, to repair them when things go wrong.
That's pretty expensive. Parts to repair the,
When just a 2-yard dumpster is anywhere between $300 and $400, and then when you buy a 4-yarder is up from there from 5 to 6, and then you get to 6-yarders, and you're going
There it is.
$600 to $800 carts.
did we not do that in the past then?
Yeah, I mean, that's why that money's in there, just to let everybody know that's why that's in there. We buy carts, the carts got 10-year warranty, but, you know, when they break, we have to replace them.
Yeah.
But we get, you know, we'll get a
substantial
cart back in lieu of that one. And
But most of
sorry,
these are reaching their 10-year warranty now.
Right.
Yeah, if we have an inventory for 10 years, they're all 10 years old.
Yeah. Viola,
We've only
yeah.
spent $4,000 this year.
Viola bought them new.
Yet we're budgeting for 60,000.
Didn't Viola buy them new in 2008?
Yeah, 2007, correct.
7.
Well, you don't
Okay.
have
You
to
don't have
spend
to.
that.
Yeah.
No, we don't.
We're
You
just-
don't have to pad it
No.
that
Well-
much either.
The point is it's gonna be cash carryover. You can either put it here and have a cash carryover at the end of the year, or stick it in reserve and build your cash carryover. You're doing the same thing. And this way, if he has to buy more, he can. He got the budget authority, but the point is, that money has to stay in this fund.
Yeah, it doesn't.
He can't
doesn't
leave this
remove from the
fund.
fund.
So your cash carryover goes up. You could keep that the same, and he had to buy them, he'd buy them, and your cash, if you were sticking some off in cash, into a cash carryover, automatic cash carryover,
Why did we just pick this year to start looking at that and not last year? Or?
Because warranties are running out this year.
Running out.
he's closer to 10 years.
It is 10 years this year.
I just think that's an excessive amount. It adds to the total budget.
Yep.
No, it doesn't. Because we would put it, we're gonna budget
That's when we're figuring our
the
mill
money we
levy out.
take in plus carryover. In case you do have a disaster, you blow something in a truck you weren't planning on, so you have that cushion there. You know, we're not raising rates. We're not changing the revenue on that. We're not raising rates. We're not doing anything else on that. So what effect are you having? Zero.
But if you have 10, and I might be looking at this
Yeah.
wrong, if you had 10 line items that were $60,000 cushion, you have a mill.
This ain't mill.
This isn't a mill.
This is,
Doesn't this go to the total?
No.
no.
No, no.
No, this is a non-tax fund.
This is an
Enterprise
enterprise fund.
fund.
This is an enterprise fund.
Enterprise fund.
Water
Run
and
it like a
wastewater and all
business.
that.
Okay.
You spend it
Yeah.
only if you need
I was
to.
looking at it
I get it.
general fund
No, it
No,
doesn't.
yeah.
point of view
That's
instead
a
of a
different game.
non-tax.
I agree totally with
Utility.
you.
This is an enterprise fund.
Okay. Now, that makes sense.
Okay, great. And you know, like I said, you have a little of those extras in there because what happens if he blows 2 motors on trash trucks? You know, and of course,
You don't have
a
to. use-
predecessor of his would say, it takes $30,000 to fix a truck, we have 2 trucks, 3, 4 trucks, I'm gonna budget $120,000. Well, more than likely, all 4 trucks ain't gonna blow in the year, but by having cash reserves, you're ready just in case too. I mean, because we still gotta pick up trash come Monday morning, and we will.
In the enterprise, it's more clear to look at the state budget forms, and you'll see that it was budgeted at 1.5 million, 1.7 million, and now we're back down to 1.5 million. And then we cash carry, even with this budget, we cash carry about almost $900,000. So the fund has sufficient reserve, cash carry, and everything. It's not in trouble financially at all.
Okay.
And we don't let the department head spend wildly. I think they can attest to that.
That's correct.
We don't let them spend arbitrarily.
Okay.
On the same page?
We contract services.
Same page.
Thank you.
Asked and answered. Thank you.
Okay.
Is there any other questions on the commodity section of the 600? Okay.
That's it. For you, Ray? Yes.
Unless they have any questions, the 700
Is it contract services?
on,
Can you just talk about 749, all the other services here? What
that
is
is
that?
all our tonnages that we pay for the transfer fee station. It's $50 a ton is what we pay.
Thank you.
County has notified you that they're going to give a rate increase or not?
They haven't yet. I've asked and they said they haven't, but they pulled that stunt last year when they.
Yeah, they did.
it
That's
was
why I'm
at
asking.
49 and they said, and then next thing I knew, 2 months later it was at 50. So right now, I've talked to them, they said it's been at 50, it'll stay at 50 so far.
And we
so.
won't spend it if we don't.
But the good
Correct.
part about it is if it does go to a little more, we can handle it. Because we have the budget authority built in.
We have
Yeah, we
60.
got 60,000.
Even right here,
We got the cush. I got it.
even here at best, we're coming
I'm
up with
picking your-
370, we have
Well,
100,000 right
we're picking
there.
up, Ray's picking up trash Monday morning.
370, if we just double that.
Ray's
Good
people.
thing. I don't want it in my yard.
Can we take about
Well, it also gives you flexibility, and we did this last year, if you recall.
a break from it?
We towards the end of the year, we found a really good price on a used trash truck, and we was having trouble with the trash truck, so he came to you and he said, hey, I have enough money in my budget. And we won't have to even amend the budget if you'd allow me to buy this used trash truck. It's a really good deal, and we bought it.
That was a good deal,
It was a good deal.
that was.
It really helped him.
Kind of like what the fire chief is getting ready to do with that truck.
Yeah.
He would have used it this weekend, too.
Sometimes you just have to do the best you can do with what you got.
Move on. Thank you, Ray.
Okay, thank you, Madam Mayor, Commissioners.
Thank you, Mr. Ibarra.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Tired of us, Ray?
Doing a good job, Ray. Thanks.
Thank you, Nick. Thank you, Mike.
Well done.
Take that.
You can finish your soda now.
Okay. I'll need it.
Drink that Coke.
Get my caffeine going.
We just wait for you to put up, and then we ask you a question.
You better get out of here.
He's going for it.
Okay.
All right,
Chief Johnson?
35.
Yeah, it doesn't do it kill her too much.
Fire department will be on page 35.
Glad you kept the numbers the same, that worked out good.
Yeah.
I took notes.
Starting with the photo book.
Yeah, page 35.
But mine, the one I grabbed in. You can have this one. Yeah, you can have this one. I'm not really flipping, Cheryl, so you can just keep it here. I can't explain anything.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, Commissioners. not doing too bad. I'm a little nervous, first run at this, so
Yeah, you'll be okay.
hopefully I can answer your questions.
Excuse me.
I had some notes here, what I do with them. Ready? Where would you like to begin? We can start at the top and work our way through.
Page 34.
Looking at the fire department budget, the increases that we've put in are to allow us to adapt to the changing environment when manufacturers and vendors increase their prices mostly. Through the budget, we looked at it, and we do have our new apparatus. Parts of their warranties are coming of age, so we're going to be having to start looking at taking care of those trucks ourselves instead of warranty issues. If you looking at our payroll, that's based on the contract agreement with the local. That's where those increases are coming from. And all of that's calculated through based on those negotiated that you agreed to in December of 2016. As we go down the list, see the different ones. We've done some increasing in the parts for vehicles and equipment. As I said, we don't know what our costs will be with the new apparatus as they start to roll out of their warranties for their maintenance.
How long is the warranties good for? I thought they were like usually
Some between
5 years
4 and
or something.
5, but to be prepared, some of them are only 2-year warranties. It depends on what the part is on the truck. The motor, the transmission, the pump, the certain parts of it have different lifespans. One of the things is like we have the older engine 3, it's got a leak in the tank. Well, that leak is a lifetime warranty. So that's covered by its warranty. But there may be other parts on these newer trucks that are not covered. So we're wanting to prepare for hopefully nothing, but if we have to deal with it. Increases in the books and just subscriptions. Our training library is a little dated. Some of our books are first editions, and the subject matter is now in the 7th edition. We are getting ready to do for example, we're getting ready to do an engineer testing, and we needed enough books for all the members. So those type of things, so that they can study the material and be prepared. Also, it gives the officers or the instructors that come in reference material that they can use teaching a class. So we have to keep that as updated as possible. I think we still have a couple of them that are first and second editions. Good material, but it's not the current testing material that the Kansas University uses for testing firefighters.
Chief, I'm sorry. Can we do any of that with digital books?
Per person is the problem. I can spend $70 on the manual,
Okay.
put it on the shelf. It's $55 a person, or about $8,000 for department access for 10 people.
Okay.
So it's right now, it's not evolved to that with the fire service. Here recently, we've had some, they went and bought the manuals themselves at $50 and $60.
Okay.
And what we would like to do is keep them upgraded so we have a library for them to study with.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Chief, I have a question. Why
Yes, sir.
overtime and salary and wages 0510 is a $44,000 increase from the budgeted of 2017 and a 60-some thousand from budgeted 2016?
As as you can see, the 2017, we have 44,000. We're at about 37,000 right now in overtime expenses due to injuries, sick leave.
It's 42 already.
42. Oh, I'm sorry. We're at 42 now with injuries, sick leaves. And when we have retirement, we have a time span between that person retiring and when we can have a new person fully on shift where they can work shift work. So we took what we projected to be a mid-year amount just to be in a safe zone. Also, our number of ambulance transfers, that's increasing, and we need people to cover Also, an incident such as, unfortunately, the Bluffs fire, calling people back for overtime, those type of incidents, we can really rack up overtime with that.
I see we've racked up overtime exponentially every year since 2016. There's got to be an issue. Either we don't have enough people and we're spending it in overtime, or more things are happening and we don't have enough people and we're spending it in overtime. Is it a systemic issue that's going to continue this trend of an extra $40,000, $50,000 a year for the next 10, 20 years?
It's,
With emergency services, sir, that is a tough answer, being here only 8 months and not, just having what's in front of me and not seeing the elements that we deal with on a regular basis.
right now, haven't you had 2 people off due to work comp?
I have 2
One
off
was
right-
work,
I've had 2 off for work comp. I've had
One off?
one turn in resignation, 1 retire. So we've had a lot of coverage there. We also have coverage when we send people to school. We have to have that coverage. We're at a minimal staffing of 13, and when someone needs to go to school and we have people calling sick, we have to make sure that's covered. So a policy that we have is if you put in for training, you have to have coverage first, so that we don't fall into that pitfall of being understaffed as we are. We have 16 firemen on the floor running calls. Our call volume is a flexing volume. Sometimes we have more transfers than we have emergency calls. Last month in May, we had 1,315 emergency medical calls in 1 month, and we did 32 transfers. It's a catch-up game, is what it is. I can sit here and say, yes, sir, more staffing would help us, but we can't afford it. The city right now is not in a position for that. If we could find the money, it would be a blessing. It would be safer for our firefighters, definitely safer for our community.
if we put in 1 full-time firefighter, it still wouldn't take away the overtime.
Right.
We're not at that level yet.
I've worked the job, and you could put 6 people on each shift additional. And some days, you're still going to have enough people out that you're going to be going, how do I justify hiring overtime, but I need it to fill the slots that we have? That job is always going to have a lot of overtime, and it's going to slide up and down the scale. If you hired enough people to never, ever have overtime, you'd be paying out tons of money and tons of benefits. Sometimes looking at it, paying the overtime is cheaper than hiring full-time people to try to cover.
Well, 65,000 in overtime in 2016 does not justify a new position.
No.
But look at, drop down 2 lines to fill, drop down to 520.
88.
He's actually going, because of what we had, we were budgeted high for whatever reason this year, but we're moving the budgets down for full-time.
Well, that was.
Because we've had retirements.
Retirements, and
Yeah,
we're
having
bringing
that,
less,
so-
Have higher lag.
Yeah.
Not having,
Higher
to pay,
lag.
not having to pay as high.
a higher salary.
You what,
Yeah,
2?
I just,
2.
I guess at the end of the day, what I'm hearing is that this is going to continue to grow. It's never going to slow down. When I look at the past record, it's never going to slow. We're going to continue to have issues with more call-outs. And I think maybe an analysis of, and I think we got this last year, was the amount of fire calls, the amount of EMS calls for the entire year versus last year and versus the projected next year, which is a justification. If you don't raise, if you don't raise the amount of personnel, then you have to have a justification somewhere
Sure.
for the numbers to add up. And I guess at the end of the day, that's what I was looking for.
Yes, sir.
Generally speaking, you're not going to want to hire another person until you reach overtime that justifies 2 to 2.5 times of a person's salary with benefits.
We
So
got-
we haven't reached that point yet.
And we have some contractual issues that we have to man certain amounts, and for a lot of great reasons, safety reasons.
Care.
I mean,
He doesn't care.
unfortunately, and as you know, he's in a business that we don't know what's going to happen 25 seconds from now. And so you've got to be fully staffed, because what's the next big one? And unfortunately.
And I understand all that, but there's a ton of folks that are listening right now that don't have a clue as to
Yeah,
how that
I get
works
that.
and why.
Yeah, I get that.
That's the
Sure.
reason of the analysis of
Right.
how many was last year.
Yes.
How many is
Yeah.
this year, and then
Yeah,
that is a
and we have-
justification.
Yeah,
And for the public, they can get those numbers in the budget. Book.
we have contractual things with, so many
Budget
people
guide.
on the first out truck and all those good things. And those are national standards that we follow. We didn't make them up.
Right.
And of course, we're somewhat contractual, but we do it for the right reasons too.
It's also why we justify that to the county when we're trying to explain why all these costs keep going up.
Right, and there are some that ask that question.
Yeah. It's a good question.
And it's an excellent question, sir. Again, with overtime issues, I can't predict when someone's going to call in sick. And that's one of the major ones that really throws a wrench into the cog, is we'll have scheduled a full shift and 4 people will call in. And then we're down and we've got to hire back. Or I have someone going to school, we thought we had 15, and then if we're not covering that person going to school, we're not going to have the minimum staffing. Those things we have to take into account. If we're going to have the best trained firefighters, we have to send them for training. We can't do everything here. The sick calls, the sick leaves, that's a benefit they have, and they use it for a lot of different reasons. We can't control that. We sit and project what they're going to take for vacation.
Do you want this?
Based on previous trends. We know certain people take certain times of the year off because they want to go hunting,
Okay, I didn't
want
wanna
to go
hit it.
fishing, or take the family to the beach or something like that. We do our best, but even with that and the amount of emergencies, plus when we are fully staffed and we have emergency medical calls going on, we have transfers going on, we still need people. So all these things just compound the issue. Looking at run numbers, you can do the comparisons. You can say, okay, they've had a growth, but it doesn't look big. Well, when you're sitting there trying to figure out how to staff a department and you have one ambulance going to Wichita, one going to Topeka, and you have one ambulance for the whole county, what do we do? And we've had those days. We've had a lot of those days, and we're doing the best that we can to manage it, but we have to maintain a minimum staffing to protect the community. And that's where it just gets complicated, because there's so many variables.
I know we're crossing over to ambulance here, but if I'm at Geary County Hospital and I got to be transferred to another hospital, how fast do you guys respond to get me to Topeka or Kansas City or wherever?
It depends on the issue. I mean, if it's
Yeah.
you need to go to Topeka for a specific surgery, they have you stabilized, we can have a half hour, 45 minutes, 3-hour notice. Or it could be, we got a cardiac patient, it's serious, we've got to get this guy gone now. Helicopter can't fly. Then the officers on duty have to make that decision, what ambulance do I send? And a lot of times, we can't get the members to come back. Again, we can't force mandatory overtime. We could, but then there would be a riot with pitchforks and everything else. We put out the call, we need help, we need people to come back, but they have lives. They have other things going on in their life. So we don't get them back. And we can be short. We can be down to 12. And the ambulance has to transport that patient. I mean, the doctor wants that patient transported. If they can wait, the hospital's very gracious, and they do work with us really, really well. But there are times when that will occur. Or if we get 2 county calls and we're down to minimum staffing, we need to call people back, because if we have to run to a certain end of the county, Milford Lake or something like that. The recent incident at Milford Lake, we had to call back people to cover while we had an engine and an ambulance up there. So it's just a complicated issue. I don't know if there is an answer. More manpower, I can tell you from the fire side, I would love to hear that. But we're still going to have overtime. There's no way around it. What's adequate overtime? I can't answer that. I can't tell you what's going to happen next 10 minutes, next 10 years. We're basing it on trends. We see the increase. We look at worst case scenario, and that's what we want to prepare for.
Chief Johnson, I just have one quick question, and we'll move on. Do we have a pool of certified reserve volunteer, like with the county?
No, sir.
No.
We are a 100% career department.
Okay. Because I was thinking if we have like an ambulance that's needed and we have some certified folks out there, that they could call back one of them and still put them on pay.
It's a very difficult process to get through because of the trends in communities nowadays. 75% of the country is volunteer, but they're losing volunteers at an astounding rate because of requirements for training, what we have to require for them to be prepared to do the job, to meet all the insurance requirements, the national standards, but also they have to have the time. You know, standard firefighter training is 360 hours. EMS training is 300-400 hours. Then if they go to advanced levels, that's more hours. They have to maintain their skills. Now, there's volunteer units out there that do that every year, but they're getting fewer and fewer.
Okay. Thank you, Chief.
Any more questions?
I think commodities, all right, maybe look over at contract services.
The next page, page 36. You'll see some increases there. For advertising and printing, we're wanting to do more public fire and life safety education. And we're going to need to buy paper, make prints, make posters, that kind of thing. Most of this is, rest of it is general gas, utilities. Maintenance, repair of equipment, we did, we kind of leveled that off. We're doing okay with our small equipment, but we still need to make sure we have enough if one breaks or one needs to be replaced. We've set aside $5,000 because we're wanting to replace. Firemen are tough on furniture. It's just they're used so much. I mean, you have folks in the building 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And
They use it.
things like beds, mattresses, those things need to be looked at a regular basis. And that's why we would like to keep the 5,000 in there.
I think it was the beds were last done in 2011, maybe 2011.
And the beds they've held up well, but they need to be replaced.
Yeah.
We're getting to that point where doors are falling off. It's particle board type framing. So they, you know, firemen changing in and out of them at all hours of the night. And those things are just in constant, every day, 24 hours. So chairs, furniture, anything like that that they use, we have to look at it and make sure that they have something decent. They're there for that time. They live there. They live, you know, you have 10, at Station 1, we have 9 guys living in the same area, and at Station 2, we have 7. You know, that's 7 grown men and 9 grown men living in the same area. It's, you know, it's brutal on furniture. It really is. So, capital equipment, $40,000. That's for Station 2. As I said, we have 6 to 7 people out at Station 2 living in a 4-man building. It was designed for 4 firemen. It was not designed for 7 firemen. But the equipment that we have out there and the response requirements for the apartment complexes and industrial require us to have those numbers out there so that we can respond, i.e., again, my largest example is the Bluffs. You know, that's one of the largest areas, so the aerial has to be out there. The industrial park is out there. Those are our high hazard areas. So that's where we need our aerial. That's where we need our engine. That's where we need an EMS unit. That's 7 people in a building built for 4. So we need to look at some options. And hopefully we can find some.
And this is a split between the ambulance and the fire?
Yes.
Right?
Yes, there's a split between ambulance and fire on this. And we're looking at options and moving toward that. And also, we have a desire to start working and piecing together a training ground. We, right now, there's things that Fort Riley does to help us, but we have to really maintain what they do on their schedule because it's their training ground. We don't want to try to take over somebody's training ground. The nearest ones after that are either Salina or Manhattan.
I know. Yeah, it's okay.
And we have a great relationship with Fort Riley Fire. We can make the coordination happen. However, there are just mission essential things that they have and we have that are not going to always be together. And our time frame or their time frame may not match up. Having a training ground allows our crews to go out and practice basic skills and become better at their basic skills. So we're looking at those avenues of what we can do. The building team and the training team are coming up with options. So we'll see what they have and we'll see where we can move forward with these projects. And then again, the 5,000 for equipment, that's loose equipment if we have to replace a nozzle or something on an emergency basis.
Okay, the next was fire, unless you had questions, fire reserve, 8789. I will explain to you on the revenue side, we kept it at, to be equivalent is 1.99 mils, so equivalent to 2 mils based on that, and then Chief can relate to you how he wishes to spend the money allocated for next year.
89?
89. For that.
87, really.
87 was the revenue side, 89 was expenditures. Now remember, because, to make sure you have the 2 mills, I will have to maximize and put in the full amount of revenue that we're asking for, even though he might not be spending it all. So I have to ask for the entire 2 mills in order to make it, get to the 2 mills. He may not be spending the entire amount that's
So that could
listed
be
here.
what, 350,000 or?
Uh-huh.
Oh,
Total.
yeah, okay, I got it.
Give you that funny look. You know what I mean.
The first line there, 683, we're at a point in our purchasing of protective gear, we're in a rotation period now. So we reduced the amount that we're requesting so that a specific amount of gear can be replaced instead of 50 sets.
I must be on the wrong page.
Page 88.
88, I'm sorry.
Oh, okay.
Oh, thank you.
There we go.
Yeah,
Commodities, protective gear.
I was with you.
This is the mill right here then.
As we go through, we're going through a process of inspecting gear. Those who have the worst set of gear or who are close to the lifespan of the gear, we're getting those together in, it would be every year we purchase gear, but we're not purchasing 50 sets at one time.
Yep, that makes
So,
sense.
We reduced that. For fire equipment, estimate probably 30,000 for larger items that we purchase that we may need. There may be something we need to finish out some rescue tasking or for firefighting. We may have a bad run of hose and need to order fire hose. And that way we have this funding for those kind of things, for that equipment that is high on the expense list when we go and purchase it. So we use the fire reserve to reduce the costs on the operations budget. The capital equipment, the 170,000 project that I'm looking at there, we have a I think it's 06 Chevy Impala, I'm sorry, an 04 Chevy Impala that we use as what we call a staff car for folks to go back and forth to school with. Its reliability is coming to the point where it's coming to the end of its life cycle. So we're looking at upgrading our command vehicle and moving the Suburban down to a
What's the chance of, if, since police is buying new vehicles, that one of those could go?
I spoke with Chief Breesy, and right now there's none available. So this is more of a, you could say it's a backup plan. They recently had a vehicle that was crashed, so we were scheduled to get one. We didn't get it. So if it's
He will
available.
budget for it, but if he doesn't spend it, the money
Yeah.
stays in the, this is
Okay.
one of those
Yeah.
funds, it doesn't,
This is not an.
don't lose the money.
Yeah.
Okay.
We don't have to spend the money. If we're lucky enough to get those, that would be great. Then we don't have to spend the money. So it allows us to, if we have a large purchase that's needed, we just budget and say, okay, this will be enough to either replace one or get us in the door to, for payments or something like that. It's just a way for us to have a small safety net to know it's there, that if we have to replace something on an emergency basis, we can. And then in 2019, I think it's Cheryl, the 2019 is the last payment for the apparatus?
It is.
Okay. 2019 is the last payment for the apparatus through the lease
Oh,
purchase.
18 and one more in 19.
Yes.
Again, remember, we budget the full amount to get to the 2 mills, and whatever cash is left remains in the fund, and cash carries over.
What's in the reserve now?
Year-end cash carry was, for fire reserve, equipment was 324,000, was the cash carry.
Okay.
I would love to see that get closer to $1 million.
And then we're looking at it as we go and adjusting it.
Yeah.
And if we don't have again, we just put a number in there so that if we have to use it, we already have it budgeted. We don't have to go through any extraordinary processes. If we don't use it, it just rolls with the next fund.
Mm-hmm.
And so looking at where we're at right now, so if we go to item 26, fire equipment reserve, we're actually short, if we project and get everything that we want, we're actually short $101,877.
Because it doesn't show cash carry in these reports.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Because I was concerned when
No,
we got
it
to
doesn't
that,
show cash carry.
that 2017 had pretty close to $1 million.
No.
Okay.
This will never show cash carry, and that's why I always give you these reports, because these reports will show you cash carry numbers.
See, not only are you putting the 2 mills in there, you get a smidge of motor vehicle.
Okay.
Because it's a levy fund, percent of the motor vehicle pops in there too, so,
Okay.
Same in the general fund where we have a budgeted reserve and we max it out for as much money as that we want for reserve plus any cash carry.
Sounds good. Thank you.
It's a way of building your cash carry. And still levy the full 2 mills, which is what our goal was. And last year, you reaffirmed, and I, at this point, assume that you want to keep it at the 2 mills. Unless you tell us differently.
I believe it's there.
Chief, the capital equipment list I assume it's for the new ambulance, the AEDs and whatever for 10,000. It's actually on the other book.
An ambulance, yes, ambulance will be next. We'll talk about
Okay,
ambulance
we'll talk
next.
about that then. I've got an idea for you, so.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Keep us moving.
No, that's under the ambulance budget, sir.
Right.
Oh, no, okay.
But you're close.
Yes.
Next, isn't
I'm ready to
Yeah.
move on.
Yeah,
We're done with
ambulance,
it.
page 6 and
Okay, and ready for ambulance would be?
24,
24?
yeah.
6 is revenue, if you want to talk about the revenue side. The revenue side is we are now going to, the plan is to bill the county the full amount. The only thing that we won't be billing them now for is, what was it? It was 2 minor benefits, minor benefits. Disability life,
yeah, and something else.
and something else that was too small
That's
to
for
split.
revenue, the
So how
24.
much
And
were
track.
we billing the county for?
We bill them for 9 full-time positions, plus 25%, is it 25%? 25% of
Chiefs,
the chief's salary and 50% of
Kelly's.
Kelly's salary, and 25% of the firefighter's salary on the ambulance part only.
The M is part of the fire. Firemen have a salary.
And they have a
but-
split salary.
Yeah, they have a salary of, say, $12, and then they have a $3.07 for, as an EMT, because everybody's an EMT. So a fireman's making $15 an hour, let's say, for example. and $12 of that, and I'm not exact the numbers here, $12 of that is fire, and then the $3 is ambulance, or it's $3.47, I remember right. And that one is
That
split
right?
between us and county.
Rick?
We only bill the county.
Was that
We
right,
give
Rick?
them an estimated number what it's gonna be, but it's just that. If insurance collections go up next year in ambulance,
I'll look it
we
up.
get a better percent of insurance, less bad debt, the amount we bill the county, we bill them the gap, right, Cheryl?
Yes, we build them the gap.
We build them the gap between collected and expended.
We
And
bill
if we
what's
collect more
collected.
because we have a good day, or, good year getting collections, or he has more patients that are private pays, or just a different scenario. But if we have more patients that are Medicaid, Medicare,
The big four, Medicare, Medicaid, TRICARE, and VA.
In the
Those-
contract,
because we get, and as Dr. Landis knows, it's not what we want, it's what we get from those people.
in the contract.
It is what it is.
We have to charge a certain amount to get a certain amount.
In the contract, the county owes us 67% of the bottom line. Okay, so we take the actual received and the actual expended, and then charge them 67% of that.
We put a number in here because we think it's going to be that, but we're going to bill what it is.
And this is for residents outside of Junction City.
No,
All
It's for-
services.
It's for Geary County.
just to Gary County.
EMS, as EMS, as a lot of people know, is a county mandated service. And a lot of people argue about that, but I can look around the state, you do different comparisons. I can look at some counties where it's a little less, some are a little higher. But what the residents of the county, and also the city too, get when we would do an ambulance call, if we have staff available, you get the kitchen sink. You get it all, which is better for,
Sure.
we remember that lady at the church up here, by having the crew we had and throwing the numbers at them, we gave her every chance she had. And that's not a bad day.
I can look it up to verify it.
What I want when you come drag me out.
So Cheryl, you
Isn't
said,
it
well, right
names?
now then we weren't billing for the full amount for EMS, but now we are.
What we ultimately agreed on
Into the meeting though.
3, maybe 4 years ago, we told the county that we didn't believe they were following the contract properly. And so we gave them heads up warning, we're going to slowly transition into you till we phase it in so that you're going to go to we're going to go to what the contract says. Tell us differently if you want to negotiate something different. And they didn't. So we went on to the process of each year adding. And then they got a little owie for a while, so we did a 1-year reprieve on that. And so now we're into the 4th year, and we finally said, enough's enough. You're going to pay what the contract says. This is the amount that we're going to charge you, but they were forewarned.
Okay, thank you. Page 24.
It amounted to an increase of about $300,000
Ooh, I like that.
over a 4-year period.
That'd be-
Still good. You say what page?
24.
The actual budget is on page 24.
All right, chief.
Again, with the overtime, we went through that conversation with the fire side. It's the same thing on this side. We have to be prepared for if something happens. We don't know.
Can't predict what's going to happen.
No, ma'am.
Need to be prepared.
You'll see some slight increases starting at 603. Building maintenance, Station 1, Station 2, until we can bring you some solutions. We're just trying to repair them as best we can and keep them functional. Our O2 supplies is based on an average of what we're getting charged for replacement of cylinders. And it all depends on how much we use. let's see,
The cost of medical supplies is going up, $6.59.
yes, ma'am. One of the things that happens every 2 to 3 years is they'll come out and say there's going to be market-wide a 2.5% to 5% increase. What we try to do is every year send out requests for proposals of who's going to give us the best prices or search for the best prices. But as it's gone through, and it also depends on what we're using. The price of collars won't go up as much as innovation equipment or something like that. The disposables, innovation equipment.
Are medical supplies drugs?
Medical supplies are not drugs; they are disposables.
Okay, where do drugs?
Well, actually, yes, they do. I'm sorry.
They are, okay.
They do come from there too.
Okay.
And
Are we gonna, once we get that system that the foundation raised money for, is that gonna give us savings?
It'll give us some savings in it, as it'll reduce, what'll happen is we'll be more efficient with our cost of medication. Instead of having to buy 4 or 5 boxes of medication so that we can quickly recharge the ambulance, the vending machine or the Cat 5 machine will be in the ER. They punch it, they do their ID number, they put in what they want, and that's automatically recorded to the pharmacy, and the pharmacy replenishes it. So we reduce the amount of expired medications that we're holding on to and trying to dispose of, and it reduces the amount that we have to order. We only get charged for what we're using at that point, not what we're stocking. We end up with a pretty good amount of pharmaceuticals that are expired that we have to find a way to dispose of. So that will change in there. I don't know what that number will be.
Until you get doing it, I get
Yeah,
it.
until we get
I
doing
get
it. Again, the books and tapes, just like with fire, EMS books, they change every 2 to 3 years. We need to try to stay up as best we can. The uniforms are a returning cost every year that we're working. Let's see. If you see the software maintenance there, 14,000, this is a self-standing reporting software. The software, we use 2 separate companies for reporting fire and EMS. What we're looking at doing is getting all that into one package so that it's easier to report to each other. It's easier that we can report to the hospital. It's easier that we can report to everyone we have to. The system that we're using now is based off the state, and when the state has a system, but it is probably the base system. It's not.
Is that going to include all the training and
Yes, this
maintenance and upgrades and,
this is a annual cost for everything.
so every year it'll be that much?
Yes, ma'am. Because they maintain all the HIPAA, the Medicare, all of those policies, procedures that we have to do.
It's a big jump.
Yes, sir, it is. But we've had issues with when they do a system upgrade that we can't log on to the system, we can't do reports, we can't get stuff done. We have to wait till the state gets their process done. Then they send a notice out to us that we have to go in and do our part of it to do our reports. And then we could have an EMS unit with 9 or 10 reports waiting to be done for a 1 or 2 day.
Sole source vendor, or did you put it
No,
on
sir,
RFP, or-
this is an estimate. I have 5 vendors right now that are doing RFPs.
Okay,
And we're just looking to put it in the budget so that when we do have this, we have the best price and the best service.
Well, let me just clarify what you said. So right now, the cost for that's 14, or estimated 14,000.
Yes, ma'am.
To get trained and
Yes,
then
ma'am.
every year, you're going to pay 14,000?
It should adjust after the initial training. The first year is going to be 14,000, that's with training. And then after that, it'll adjust. But the software we're looking at is a far advance of what we're doing. It's wireless, it works off the cloud. We don't have to have a server or anything. They maintain all that information for us and report it for us automatically. Right now, to send a report our monthly report to the state, Kelly has to go in, pull the report, and send it. This does it. She puts in the date she wants it sent, and it sends it for us every month. There are upgrades in these softwares that happen. And again, with the state software, it's a good software, but it's a basic software. And we have to ask it to do certain things. instead of it automatically doing for us.
Is that pretty much what everybody else is using already too?
It varies across the state. It depends on the agency. Some departments, EMS agencies, they do this. They pay for the software. Topeka Fire Department, they use this software type system. They don't use the state system. Also, when this includes fire reporting software too now. This is both softwares. The software that we're using now is Firehouse software. It's been around since the early 90s. It's been around a while. And it's not improved with the times. We're still using the same software and the same process. Analytics that we can get off of this software, we can get what we want, not what the vendor says you can have. So the change in the software is to upgrade so we can be more efficient with our operations. So the end result are things like data can be transferred to the hospital almost instantaneously. A docking port or by giving the ER director access to our system, it'll be more efficient as right now, I think that one of the softwares provides EKG transmissions and digital, real-time digital, that already match up with the system that we have in place. It's just a matter of having this software. It's like a Bluetooth. It's just a matter of having this tablet connect with that Zoll, and we can send the information. So we're trying to improve that so we can improve the cycle of patient care, but also improve our reporting process too. Again, the Firehouse software has been around for a long time. It's an operational software, but for us to move forward with things like on the fire side, it will give us more accurate reporting. Our inspections can be done by tablets now instead of paper, so we can upgrade to that. So then we can reduce a lot of delays in those systems. So. It's been.
I looked it up. So your question on the salaries is split. Generally speaking, what we do is charge them what the contracted rate is for the EMS salaries, which is where I was getting the 20. It's approximately 25 to 30% of their wage. When it comes to the benefit side, we only charge them 25%. We don't base it exactly on the wage. We only charge them the 25%. So, because it would be harder to split and harder to track. So it doesn't always exactly equal, because it varies from person to person, because it's based on when, the contract price is based on what level of service they're at. I'm going to say the wrong.
EMTA.
EMTA,
and
paramedic, and something else.
That's the three now.
Whatever their rating is. Whatever they're certified at, is what bases their salary. And so it goes up and down for each person. So we base it off of that contracted negotiated price. And when we increase that, we informed the county that we were increasing that side of it. And so that's what they pay in salary. And then we charge them 25% of their benefits.
Chief, how much was the medication dispensing unit?
I believe we have a grant for $14,000.
Did the Healthcare Foundation pay some on that too?
That's their grant to us, sir, yes.
That is the grant.
Yes,
And
sir.
that was for this year?
I believe so. We're working on it now. We're finishing it up.
I mean, in the past, I was getting back to the capital equipment thing, was that they paid for AEDs and stuff in the past. Mr. Rip was working with some of that stuff, so that might be a thought.
Yeah.
As far as, a proposal to them for that.
Yes.
So something to think about.
And a few, when.
Because I know a guy on their board that does a little work with them, so auctioneers and that kind of thing, so just a thought.
Should I leverage that?
As we move forward and need that, we'll be approaching.
Okay, just something to think about.
Yes, sir.
Right.
You want me to leverage that with Jelana?
Hey, I didn't say anything about that. I'm not a name dropper.
That's not easy.
Capital?
In a capital outlay, we're requesting $10,000 for, again, this is for if we have a unit go bad and we have to replace it. It's not covered by warranty or as I've seen on some of in the EMS journal, one gets run over by a car on the side of the highway, something like that. It happens. So we have to be able to have some way to replace, at least, do that and get it back in service. That's really what the capital, EMS capital outlay is. If we have something that we need, it's where we can go to get that needed equipment. And then the big one for the capital equipment is basically $35,000 for the renovation or repair for the stations, and then for Station 2, and then $330,000 for an ambulance. We're looking at going with a heavier duty truck chassis than what we've been purchasing to give us a little more life on the unit. We may be able to stretch it 2 to 3 years further than what we're doing now, so that we can get our units on again, trying to get that rotation through our funding so that we're not coming and saying, hey, we need 3 trucks because they're all wore out. We don't want to do that. We want to pace this, we want to pace this out so that we can effectively use our equipment, but also get us the best mileage for it.
Are you moving on the ambulances to, for lack of a better term, to auto loads?
Yes, that is one of the standards that's part of this purchase, is they now have stretchers that are basically run like a DeWalt battery system. The stretcher will come out, you push a button, the legs go down. So we're hopefully able to save on the ergonomics of back injuries and shifting stretchers and those type of
When
things.
you have especially if you have a large person, it'll pull the cot into the...
Yeah, when you're ready, it goes right in by itself. It's fully, so we end up hopefully reducing the amount of injuries on our EMTs by lifting a patient, trying to get if you know how the ambulances are now, there's a little hook that you have to hook to so that you can get the wheel up, so then somebody has to squat down, lift it up. This has a button, you push the button and it raises it up and you can slide them right in. It's a whole system that's put in place. We had them at my last job. We replaced all of our ambulances with them, and we reduced back injuries pretty much, other than moving a patient in an awkward position from the bed to the stretcher. But we reduced a lot of injuries that way.
Did I hear you say you would be replacing one, an older one?
Yes, ma'am. Medic 5 was, prior to me, was originally supposed to be a rescue truck. Well, we've been using Medic 5. This morning, Medic 5 went on a call. Okay. So 5 ambulances are what I'm seeing is what we need. We'll have 2 frontline, and if we have a full staff, we'll have a 3rd one online, and then 2 in case we have 1 or 2 of them in repair. And we've been down to using Medic 5, either for callback or for runs. So what we're looking to do is replace Medic 5 and just shift the list down. And then Medic 4, and that way we get into a even rotation of our apparatus.
What does a unit like this cost compared to the ambulance we presently have?
There's
Not that much different.
maybe $30,000 difference.
You're hoping to gain more life.
Yes, on these units, we can go, because these are what they call metro chassis, or if you look at the light delivery trucks that are around town, these are Freightliner, what they call M2 business class, or International Workstar, depending on how the process comes out. But these units are made for travel, and we do a lot. We're doing, I think last week or week before on the 515 report, we did 9 transfers in 1 week. We're doing 30 to 35 transfers a month. It's not slowing down. It's 1 or 2 a month we're picking up as we go along. With what we're using now, these trucks are good, but these highway miles will wear on these ambulances fast. Having something that is more or less prepared for that type of transport, that's a heavier duty, and we're going to get the same gas. We looked at it, the gas mileages are pretty much the same with the diesels. But what we're looking at is being able to provide a better ride because they have a liquid suspension versus an air suspension. The maintenance cost on the maintenance side, we're going with the Freightliner chassis if we can get lucky enough to get that on the filters and belts and things like that. Ray's shop, most of Ray's trucks, big trucks are Freightliners. So we might be able to reduce costs there because, if they use the same filters or the belts, we can reduce costs because we don't have to buy so many.
Would the new ambulance come equipped with everything that it needs, or are we gonna have to buy?
That is our goal, that all the equipment, like the stretcher and those type of things will be,
And I suppose anything on Medic 5 probably won't go on to
Medic 5, we will let it go.
let it go.
Yeah.
You're getting
She's,
another one.
she has more than served her lifespan.
Awesome.
She's still a good truck, and if, I know Ray used the last one for the sewer camera. If this fits his need, we'd be more than happy to let him use that, mount that in there if it works for him. And then, but the biggest thing about it is we have to look at how we can extend our maintenance and reduce our maintenance costs. And also, the other thing about it is the truck will have a space in the cab. It'll be an extended cab, and that space will carry fire gear. So we're not putting the fire gear where the medical gear is. Right now, we're putting them in a cabinet on the truck, so we would like to have that separation if we can. So, but the unit, we're looking at a good lifespan for that unit.
I want to remind you, there's an offset for that ambulance, 365 on the revenue side. So even though bottom line, it looks like it's a huge increase, I mean, ultimately, we'll pay that amount for the ambulance, for the 330 for the ambulance, but the intent was this would be lease purchase. And then, just a quick reference, there's a $110,000 increase in the contracted obligation expense and the bad debt expense. That's offset in the revenue side, but that, the reason we're increasing those $55,000 each is because the trend in medical is that we're seeing more and more write-off with Medicare, Medicaid, and Kelly was given information that would trend that's going to increase, and since we're having more runs and more transfers, that's going to increase even more. So that is an estimate, and again, that's a number that the final number is the important number, not the estimate. And so we estimate high on that and hope it goes low. You've got to estimate for the worst case scenario.
Anything more for Chief Johnson from anybody?
Nothing here.
That's about a $600,000 increase over 17.
Yeah, because you've got the 380 for the 380 in the capital, but 330 of that is going to be for the ambulance, which is going to be a lease purchase. So there's
So would it be less than that if we're under a lease purchase?
right.
Flip back out, yeah.
Well, it'll go, so 330 there's 330 on the revenue side that offsets that. And then the 110,000 is an increase on write-offs, but that's offset also on the other side, on the revenue side.
By the county.
Yes.
Okay, I was just looking at the raw numbers.
So, yeah, when you look at raw numbers, that looks like a huge increase, but the two contractual write-off numbers is an accounting number, it's not an actual spent number. We don't actually spend that money, but I have to have a means of writing it off. So that when you see those numbers come from you every month, where Kelly's asking you to write off the bad debt, that's where those numbers go.
You'll see the same
No.
thing in codes
Yeah,
tomorrow
you'll
night.
see it in codes, and you'll see it in the water and wastewater funds. So bad debt, when we're writing off an account, either contractual and/or just plain writing it off because it's a true bad debt, somebody hasn't paid the bill. I tell you this every time, just because we write it off doesn't mean we're still not going to attempt to collect, except for the contractual bad debt. Once we write those contractual bad debt in an ambulance, it's gone. I mean, that's just a contractual agreement we made with Blue Cross Blue Shield that we're only going to collect X dollars. Okay, but on the ones that are, say, just bad debt expense, we attempt to collect them forever on our books. Okay, we'll always attempt to collect. Some people leave town and come back, and we won't start a water account with them until they pay the bad debt.
Can we get their income tax too, though?
And we do that to set off. They're sent to set off, they're sent to a bill collector. We have a hired bill collection, Kansas Collections, that we send it to, and they make every attempt to collect. And then even when they say they're done, they can't find the person or they can't collect, we still leave it on the books so that we can find that. We're collecting some debts up to 10 years old. We attempt.
And even if they move out of state, if they move back to Kansas and they have income tax,
We can still collect.
if it's on the record in Topeka,
They collect it.
And then they come into the office screaming and yelling because we stole their money,
Yeah.
because they paid your bill after 15
They
Yeah,
say
we
that
call-
too. They say that too.
Oh, they get very angry at you. But we have collected some that's 10, 15 years old. We don't let it go.
Thank you for that update. Thank you, Chief Johnson.
Pleasure, ma'am. Thank you.
Oh, how about that? We're only 9:05.
We have one more.
We have one more.
Yeah.
We're not done.
Jim?
Tim's gonna do it. His is short, though.
Mine's a 4-hour dissertation. Should I start now?
Answer's no, Jim.
His is short.
Just for me, if you give me something to work,
McAllister.
give me something other than breaking it, so yes.
This one's pretty simple.
Mine's simple.
His is a short one.
I only had one question on that.
He found his 3% of the cut already. So,
Yeah.
it's not hard to do with that amount of numbers.
I don't know how in-depth you want me to go over it, Madam Mayor and Commissioners. But if you look on 33 of your budget guide, page 33, it tells you what the IT shop does for the city and the county. And then it also has my 2016 data in there.
We read it.
You already memorized it? Okay, very good.
Thank you, Jim.
All right.
You read, you did put a whole list of all the stuff that y'all do, which is a lot.
That's the purpose of the book.
Exactly.
Page 10 on the budget
Yep.
worksheet.
Yeah, the first.
I didn't really have any questions.
Mine's a very simple budget for the simple fact that a majority of the software that we utilize at the city is paid for by departments, so it doesn't show up under my budget. It actually shows up under their budget. I do track it, though, and you were asking, like Ray, Commissioner Sands was talking about replacing the computers.
Everybody.
I maintain that, and I put that in there, 0630 line items. So I maintain the 5-year rotation on those.
Thank you. I'll come over and see you this week.
I told you, I have a Surface Pro sitting on my desk with your name on it. And I
you
have a
have
second
one for
one if you
Vice
would
Mayor?
like it. But yours has to have some work done to it.
What about the third, fourth, and the fifth?
The third, fourth, and fifth are not
Everybody else has a
on order
problem.
yet.
I was like, I got a
My computer, mine is still good.
The mayor's last.
Mine's still good. Give me
Yes.
give me the-
Well, I know his iPad died. We didn't follow the 5-year rotation on those in an attempt to save money, and then the equipment started dying, so. But it was, last year when we discussed the budget, it was one of the items that we took out, but then when we made some final adjustments.
You put it back in.
We put it back in because we knew that they were dying, so.
You're a great man if nobody's told you that today.
I don't know about that, but.
The only thing that, Jim, I would
Yes, ma'am.
ask about is contract services, item 0714, the maintenance and data processing.
Yes, ma'am.
About that a little bit.
Which,
On page
I-
11, number 0714.
I have to look at my sheet. 0714 is I have a spreadsheet where I track it because I track all the departments on this. 0714, yes. That is where we cover certain items like do you want to know why it went up this year?
Let's go on.
Or what it?
Down, because we
Well,
had the
it's up
encode.
over the budget, but it's
Yeah.
less than last year.
It's up over the budget.
Yeah, it's increased budget from 17 over 18.
yes.
But it's a decrease from the 16 actual.
16 to 17
Right.
was our encode purchase.
Yeah.
Right, but that
we're
wasn't,
not done
that
with that
wasn't
yet.
in there. The encode purchase was in the 669 line.
Okay.
The 714 line is where we pay for stuff like the internet connections, the city's domain name registration, the city's, the Junction City ks.gov accounts, those things. That's what comes normally out of the 714 account. One of the reasons I did add this year, one of the reasons it went up is our Metro E connection is also in there. And that is where, in my office in the basement is the main Metro E connection, and all the outlying stations connect to it. So, but the actual payments for the Metro E station, say at the golf course, is paid for by the golf course. But I pay for the mothership, basically.
And you bought a new one, didn't you?
Well, we increased the speed on it, so the
Yeah, on
price went up
16.
a little bit, yes.
So there was an increase and now it's back down.
Right, there's actually a slight increase for next year, because what we want to do is, right now, we're, for guest internet access to the city buildings, we're piggybacking off of our network, which is a security problem. So what we're looking at doing is getting a cheap Cox internet connection for $50 a month, and having a public Wi-Fi that's completely separate from our network that prevents hackers from attempting to get in, because they would only be able to connect to that, so. That's what the $5,000 increase is from 17 to 18 on that budget.
And interestingly enough, our insurance company is actually going to start rating us based on our software security.
Good.
So if we don't have good software security, if we don't move forward to doing things like that, it'll make our rates go up. But we're far ahead of the game than a lot of the cities. I'm sitting on the board now, and I'm tracking what they're doing so that we get prepared, so it's not hit at the last minute. But he's been good about getting this proactive for it.
And we still have our days.
We
that
still have
things-
days when we get
Things
hacked.
go
A
south.
little bit,
Jim, I just want to tell you, thank you for getting that Your Gov app back up.
yeah.
And actually, it was a simple issue that was wrong with it. Every year, we get a new key for the software when we pay our software maintenance. And when they put it in, they left one apostrophe in the code. And it was at the beginning of the code, and it kind of screwed up the rest of the code all the way down.
Good job.
It took Carter, I can't take credit for fixing it, took the cartograph experts about 2 hours to figure it out. Wow. So, but it was fixed.
Well, thank you. Anybody got anything else for?
So I do want to tell you, because this is the time to tell you, that the Encode updates that we had asked for last year and budgeted fully in last year's budget are not yet fully implemented, because Tyler Tech has gotten behind on implementing certain phases of things. Luckily, though, it's the utility billing part, so it won't affect our general fund, but it will affect our water wastewater, and we're not yet scheduled, so I haven't budgeted it in the water wastewater funds to even do it, because I don't know when it's going to be scheduled. They haven't even given us a schedule.
No, they have
Haven't
not.
talked to us about a schedule. I just got off the phone with them last Friday, and we had a long conversation with them last Friday, because I was disappointed in some of our responses to some of the things that they're delayed on. Like, you see the weird titles in some of these still. And so I was explaining my dissatisfaction. My dissatisfaction with getting these things corrected, because I'm determined to make them correct it, because we didn't make the mistake in the first place. So she says, well, I thought we showed you how to fix that. And I says, I told you I wasn't going to do it. You're going to fix it because you're the one who screwed it up. So we got to an agreement on it, but she said we are scheduled for some time in 2018 for the utility billing upgrade. Well, that didn't help me for the budgeting purposes. Now, granted, it's an enterprise fund, and we'll have extra money budgeted in there, but it's not the end of the world if I have to amend the budget for an enterprise fund. But we're only talking probably $25,000 in total, because we've already give them $25,000 for the other part, I think.
We budgeted, they told us it was going to cost approximately $50,000.
$50,000, but we've already given them for the first part.
Yeah, but we spent nowhere near $25,000.
Okay, so the second part, the utility part, is all of the billing for all of the funds, not just utility billing. It does affect the general fund too, but that's the smallest part of it. So I think we're okay on not having a specific number, but at the same time, I wanted you to be aware that you'll be, so that you're not surprised when I'm and asking you to pay for $20,000 worth of software upgrades next year, and that wasn't in the budget.
Okay.
But we won't be surprised.
I myself am frustrated with them, but at the same time, they gave me no further answers. It's still less expensive than going for all new software. As you know, even with the PD software, to go to all new software, we were talking $450,000 for a new accounting software. And $55,000 versus $450,000, it was like a no-brainer when I was going to end up with probably about the same place as far as the quality of the software.
I only had one other comment. The activity sheets, after you go through them a little bit, they are easier to read.
Getting used
But-
to them is different.
Yeah, getting a little used to it, because it is different from years past. But I still believe that the narrative that
Footnotes.
identifies particular items that need emphasis on it, I would like to know that narrative before I get here and go through the
Okay,
whole.
so the suggestion would be, if I'm hearing you right, is next year, each department would give you a little narrative on those increases.
Fine.
Okay.
Unless you
Like we did last year.
Okay,
What it does is it better prepares us to look in those items, and when it's presented, we're prepared with those
So they
questions.
could say in 05710-43,
Right.
I'm increasing by 20,000 because of this.
because of this.
It's easy done.
Okay, we could do that.
Because
Right.
we
Easy-
could cut
get it.
down on the time tonight,
Get
because
it.
we would have already read it instead of spending the time
That's-
saying, why did this line increase?
I
So,
think
Okay.
that's a consensus across the board.
Oh, that's
Okay,
easy.
we can do that.
done.
Speed the meetings up
Yep.
also.
Easy done.
We can do that. And the other thing we wanted to bring up, I can give you a report that's like 300 pages, triple the size, it gives all the detail.
right,
But
yeah,
that's the detail that the department heads use
Problem is I
to
can't keep
manage
using
the
that
budget.
forever.
And I don't know if you want to read through all of that.
No, I think that's getting down into the weeds where we
Yes.
don't need to go,
I won't write
but
it.
we
Well, I
need
can't do it until
the
November.
big ticket items to be
I can't
prepared
write
to
you
talk
yet. It's just
about
no
it.
So when you see a $2,000 increase, you want to know why.
Yeah, well,
Okay.
what precipitated?
Okay, we can bring those kinds of notes back. I want, because we weren't sure what to expect.
Sure,
Okay,
good report.
what you liked, what you didn't like.
Don, would you?
Yeah, well, the good news is as Alan said earlier, there may be a less valuation. We may be looking at a 3% cut.
You know, I,
I've already identified the $547.30 reduction in my budget.
Okay, good.
keep in mind, as we move into July, and if the goal is gonna be to keep the mill levy the same, you know, start thinking about, and we will too, and we'll make some suggestions once we get that final number in later, hopefully this week. But we'll start thinking about that and make some adjustments and make recommendations. But, you know, if you're saying like, okay, I'm pretty good with that, but I think we could pull 30 there. And this is only the tax funds, you know.
Right.
The tax funds.
Well, I think we need to rely on you.
Yeah,
to-
we will.
Yeah.
We'll guide you. But if you saw something tonight that you're going in one of the tax, or tomorrow night, and even next 2 weeks, keep it out there.
What we want
We'll
from
give you
you
numbers,
is if
yeah.
you see a line item that you just really just don't agree with at all, let us know. And then we've already given the department heads heads up. Look to cutting 2 to 3% of your budget.
It may have to be
You tell
more.
us.
It may have to be more because we can't
Yeah,
move
we
that
don't
debt
know.
number.
Yeah, we don't know.
If we saw anything that jumped out,
Yeah,
we'll let you
let us
know.
know.
Otherwise,
We'll do it. I mean, that's not a problem.
Because
but
the department heads know that they have to assist across the board if we have to have a decrease.
one thing that Cheryl made a comment, and again, department heads are stellar on this, is they have learned, as she told me the other day, is that they all can't have it this year. So
gotta share the
is
wealth.
this year, is his next year, is his the year after. They've worked out a rotation, the general, especially the general fund items, and they've done real good with this process that Cheryl.
They know
and
the
everybody-
year that an ambulance comes out, they're not likely going to get anything
Yeah.
from anybody else, you know, and we just learned. And then we take the police department, who used to ask for $900,000 in 1 year for their whole fleet of Tahoes. We broke that out into spreading that out, and so they rotate them. And we've learned, the department heads, I should say, have learned where they need to rotate equipment. And so that they're not asking for it all in 1 year.
Staff has done good in the past and it continues. It's just, like I said before, it was an easy process to get to this point, and
Only come to us with what you need, not what you want.
There's little ones in
Nice
there.
to
but not
have.
too much.
I like to
There's,
have that.
there's a little ones in there.
All right.
There's some
so,
ones. There's some ones in there.
Thank you, Joe.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Can I get adjournment?
Motion to adjourn.
Second?
All in favor, say aye.
Tomorrow night at 6.
See you tomorrow night at 6.